The Louisiana Superdome, easily the most recognizable landmark in the state. That is the backdrop tonight for this intriguing matchup between Memphis and FAU. And in New Orleans, the revelry doesn't get any more zealous than it does at the Superdome. Tonight, it's Memphis against FAU next. And welcome everyone to the Crescent City, New Orleans, Louisiana for the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Tonight's matchup featuring a game between the Sun Belt Conference champions from FAU, the Owls, taking on Conference USA's Memphis Tigers. Hello everybody, I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie here at really the epicenter of where it happens here in the city of New Orleans on Bourbon Street, the heartbeat where tonight, Bob Davie, somebody is going to slip a football game into all of the revelry. Now, when you look at the two programs, FAU out of the Sun Belt and Conference USA's Memphis Tigers, two of the real great rebuilding and turnaround stories in all of college football.
Mark, when this season started, I don't think anyone, including yourself, could have predicted that these two teams would be right here in New Orleans in this bowl. Memphis last year, a 2-10 football team. This year started out 2-4. Then they were able to turn it around, win 5 of their last 6 games. FAU, on the other hand, under Howard Schnellenberger, an unbelievable story. Just their 7th year of putting a college football team on the field, able to win the Sun Belt Conference, represent that conference here in New Orleans. These are two great stories.
Yes. When you talk about some of the prevailing colors on the quarter here, you look at green and gold, green for the money, gold for the honey. Couple of quarterbacks that have been money all season when you look at Martin Hankins of Memphis and Rusty Smith out of FAU.
Well, you're right, and on paper there should be a lot of points tonight because these are two big-time quarterbacks. For Memphis, Martin Hankins struggled early in the season, threw 4 interceptions in the first football game. He hurt his hip, he missed 2 games, but Mark, the last 6 games he's been on fire. He's averaged about 350 yards a game passing. What helps him, he has some big-time, tall, wide receivers. For FAU, Rusty Smith named the Sun Belt Player of the Year in that conference. A lot of people say he's the 2nd best quarterback in college football in the state of Florida behind Tim Tebow. He's a big, strong guy at about 6'5", 210. He's thrown for 27 touchdowns this year.
Against just 8 interceptions, FAU continues to be one of the compelling stories on the college football landscape. We're going to take a break. When we come back on the other side, the opening kickoff, and as they say from the quarter, laissez les bon temps rouler. Let the good times roll. Back after this. FAU taking the field a few moments ago here at the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl between Memphis, who comes in at 7-5, and FAU, the Owls, coming in also at 7-5. And now downstairs to Stacey Dales.
Well, Jonesy, FAU really is a remarkable story. The fastest startup program in the history of Division I-A college football to get to a bowl game in just 3 years. I asked Sun Belt Player of the Year quarterback Rusty Smith, how have you guys prepared without any experience? And he said, we are treating this like a championship game. Our coaches, Howard Schnellenberger and company, they have experience, and they've stressed one thing to us. If you lose a bowl game, it can have a serious effect on your team morale in the offseason. So we want to finish this thing out right. Guys, they've been in full pads all week in practice, 135 scripted offensive plays this past Monday. Guys, Memphis has the experience, so I guess at the end of the night we'll find out if experience becomes the overriding factor, Mark.
Yeah, certainly. And Memphis, Stacey, certainly no stranger to the New Orleans Bowl. They played in this game in 2003. You're looking at Rusty Smith, who put up some very prolific numbers this year. In fact, both teams with very productive offenses. Memphis is, in fact, one of the top offenses in the nation. They are number 23 overall in the country, and their head coach is Tommy West, who's taken this program to a bowl game in 4 of the last 5 seasons overall. In fact, before he took to the sidelines in Memphis, they hadn't gone to a bowl game, Bob Davie, in nearly 3 decades. Really underscores what a great job he's done there.
And Mark, just a remarkable turnaround. I mean, 2-4, able to come back and win 5 of their last 6 games. They beat SMU 55-52 in 3 overtimes in their last game. Expect a lot of points in this football game tonight.
Memphis is going to kick off. FAU electing to receive the opening kick. Wilfred Rivera back deep for the Owls, along with Dilbury Edgecombe, standing on their own 5-yard line. And we are set to get underway here in the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. From the 6-yard line, that's Edgecombe. Found a nice seam over the left side, out over the 40-yard line, and all the way down near midfield at the 48. So the Owls will start off with very fortuitous field position after that 42-yard return as we meet the lineups for FAU.
It all starts with quarterback Rusty Smith, who's got a rocket of an arm. The Sun Belt Player of the Year has defied gravity, passing for an Owl record 3,352 yards. His favorite targets are wide receiver Cortez Gent and top front, and these guys create some huge wormholes. The offensive line is led by John Rizzo, who is making his 36th straight start. Make them see stars, Owls.
Right, those starting lineups presented by Samsung Mobile as William Rose with a powerful run for the first down into Memphis territory. Moves the chains all the way down to the 37-yard line. He picked up 16 on the play. Rose, a 6'1", 227-pound sophomore. Bob, you were impressed with him when we looked at him a little closer down in the field.
Well, Mark, he's the guy that came into this game with 32 catches from the fullback position. He also carries the ball. I mean, kind of a dying breed in college football, the fullback. But that fullback's a big part of this FAU offense for Howard Schnellenberger.
Schnellenberger has had some very productive offenses at the University of Miami, where he led them to their first national title, Louisville, and now here at FAU. And once again, it's William Rose as John Calipari of the #2 ranked Memphis Hoops Tigers, the head coach with the Tigers defense.
Patrolling the interior, Clinton McDonald and Freddie Barnett, who need to add to their 16 tackles for a loss. Jake Kasser, a former walk-on, paces the D with 95 tackles. And free safety Brandon Patterson leads the secondary in tackles and interceptions. Go get them, Tigers. Force those turnovers.
And Coach Calipari, Bob, with a lot on his mind. His team playing Georgetown tomorrow at noon Eastern on ESPN. At a big college basketball showdown. There's Pierre. Close to the first down. Inside the 30, brought down by Clinton McDonald. He picked up 5, and there's a look at the starting quarterback, Rusty Smith. 6'5", 212-pound sophomore from Jacksonville, Florida. He actually grew up a Florida Gators fan. His father used to take him to the games at the Swamp every Saturday afternoon. It's Pierre again picking up the first down, moving the chains inside the 25 to the 23. He picked up 5 once again. Pierre out of Orlando.
Mark, you look at FAU, they are a no-huddle offense as well. You see a lot of teams in the country using no-huddle, but they don't look over at the sidelines and get the signals from the coaches. They're on more of a hurry-up no-huddle, and they get up there, and Rusty Smith actually calls the plays at the line of scrimmage.
Smith has grown up in the last 12 months quite a bit. Schnellenberger saying that one of his early defining moments came last year after one of his losses in an early start against Clemson. They got drilled 54-6. He had tears in his eyes. The quarterback did after the game in the locker room, along with a lot of bruises. It was a while before he started again, but coming into this season, he was pegged as the guy at quarterback to start. Little receiver screen. Going to see a lot of that. Cortez Gent makes the catch on the play. Bob, that's a play they like to run quite a bit.
They do. They like a lot of screen passes. And Mark, the other thing they like, they give you a lot of formations, but with 2 backs on the field. You see right now they're in a 2-back set with a fullback and a tailback in the game as we look at Gary Nord, the offensive coordinator. But they don't substitute personnel a lot. So they'll take those running backs and displace them as wide receivers.
Here's Charles Pierre on the run. Got a nice lead block from the fullback, and Pierre powering his way down to the 11-yard line, picked up 7. Brandon Patterson making the stop finally.
Charles Pierre at about 5'8", Mark, 215 pounds. Really a little stocky bowling ball kind of a running back. He'll run through some tackles now.
Yeah, pound for pound, one of the strongest guys on the team. Little play fake. Smith completes it to his fullback, and once again it's William Rose inside the 5-yard line, short of the first down, stopped up by Ford and Rockett.
You know, a lot of the talk was about FAU having never been to a bowl game how would they react early in this game, Mark? I think they've answered the question. I mean, they have come out here focused.
Well, the silver-haired man that you see on the sidelines there is 4-0 in bowl games, so they're in good hands.
How rewarding this has to be for Howard Schnellenberger. You see a program you built from scratch. Now Sun Belt champions and in a bowl game after 7 years.
2nd down and 3. Smith fires. Pierre will jog into the end zone. Unencumbered. Touchdown Owls. Rusty Smith with his 28th touchdown pass of the season, the 34th of his career.
And Mark Cortez Gents lined up out here. He's going to come inside, and the DB right here anticipates the pick and then stops. Watch right here. Cortez Gents going to release inside. The safety thought he was going to get picked, and that left Charles Pierre wide open out in that flat.
The extra point good by Leroy. I mean, I think you have to say it looked relatively easy and methodical as Rusty Smith finds Pierre, who strolls into the end zone. The Owls off to a great start in their first ever bowl game. Welcome back, everybody, to the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Florida Atlantic leading Memphis 7-0 after a very impressive looking opening drive by the Owls out of Boca Raton, Florida. Rusty Smith to Charles Pierre for the touchdown a few moments ago before we went to commercial break. And now it's going to be Memphis's turn to try and answer.
Mark, there should be a lot of points in this game. I mean, the Memphis defense ranked 100th in college football out of 118 teams, and the FAU defense ranked 85th. So we should see some points tonight, and 2 good offenses that can throw the football.
Leroy to kick off, and back deep is Michael Grandberry. You saw him just a few moments ago, number 27. He leads the team and holds the team record for kickoff returns and kickoff return yardage. Here he is at the 10-yard line. And he, too, with a pretty good kickoff return to get his offense in good position. And here's John Calipari one more time with the Tigers offense presented by Samsung Mobile.
The Tigers' point guard is quarterback Martin Hankins. He has led the team to a victory in 5 of the last 6 games, passing for over 350 yards per game. The senior loves to distribute the rock. Duke Calhoun from right there in Memphis and 9 others have caught a touchdown pass this season. And up front, the big guys are led by Andy Smith, who was voted first team by Conference USA coaches. It's a slam dunk. Let's go Tigers.
Coach pretty jacked up as Robinson makes the catch for the Tigers. You and Coach Calipari go back to your Pittsburgh days.
Yeah, we actually went to the same high school, and you know, it's actually John Calipari now.
Oh, it is?
Not Pari.
It's a Dorset deal? Or?
No, he didn't change that name. It's John Calipari.
Okay.
Everybody calls him Calipari, but I promise you, when he was in the 8th grade, it was Calipari.
Paycheck's a little bigger now, so maybe that accounts for some of the pronunciation. 2nd down and 6 coming up. This is Joseph Doss, and Doss picks up the first down. Just shy of the 44-yard line, and NASA astronaut Steve Swanson introducing the FAU defense.
The Owls D has a knack for creating turnovers and leads the nation at +19. Linebackers France Joseph and Serge Sincere hit so hard they can knock their opponents into orbit. They're also 1-2 in tackles for the team. In the secondary, cornerback Tavius Polo has picked off 7 missiles from the opposing QBs, which is 3rd in the nation. Go Owls, send the Tigers to the moon.
Well, that looked like a moonshot and a rocket of a pass, complete once again by Martin Hankins. That one picking up 21 yards.
And that time, Carlton Robinson lined up as the inside receiver, Mark, and that middle of the field is just void right there. It looked like it was man-to-man coverage with number 27. Chris Bartell's just chasing from the outside, but that was a huge lane in the middle of that field.
They move the chains. TJ Pitts now in the backfield. Hankins out to the edge. Singleton with the catch, and you can't miss Singleton, all 6'9" of him. And he picks up another first down, Bob, after a 17-yard pickup. There we see one of the prevailing themes in this game. Singleton at 6'9" and all of it. Duke Calhoun at 6'4". Stephen Black at 6'3". Maurice Jones at 6'4". Calipari might want to get those guys on the basketball team. Doss on the handoff. And Doss finally hauled down at the 12-yard line. So both offenses come out in rhythm. That one a 6-yard gain.
And Mark, that's really what we expected going into this football game. This Memphis offense ranked 23rd in total offense. I mean, they've been on fire the last 6 weeks of this season. They've actually averaged over 500 yards of offense in the last 6 games, Mark, and I don't expect it to be any different here tonight.
Of course, Memphis coming into this game red hot. They've won 5 of the last 6 games. FAU's won 2 out of the last 3. Hankins throws it back this time. The pass complete to Calhoun. And Calhoun picks up a first down just across the 10-yard line. And it'll be first down and goal for Memphis. Duke Calhoun, 6'4", 185-pound sophomore.
Well, Memphis is a big screen team like a lot of these spread teams, Mark, and they throw the little jailbreak receiver screen back across the field to Duke Calhoun, a young guy from Memphis who was the male athlete of the year in Memphis coming out of high school. In fact, they retired his high school jersey, which doesn't happen many times this soon in your career. He's only a sophomore.
And Bobby came into this game just 150 yards shy of 1,000 for the season. The backs line up out of the eye. Hankins pulls the trigger. Touchdown. Brett Russell, the tight end, wide open. And Hankins with his 23rd touchdown pass of the season, the 41st of his career.
You're going to watch the tight end, Russell, right here, come on the crossing route. Little bit of a play action freezes the linebackers, and this thing comes wide open, Mark. I'm going to tell you right now, it is a shootout.
The meter's running, huh?
In the Superdome.
Reagan in for the extra point for the Tigers. We've played just a little bit over 5 minutes, folks. 5:40, 14 points on the board. Blink at your own risk. Plenty of points, maybe the order of the night. Back after this. Well, it is a different time post-Katrina in New Orleans, but the one inexpungible thing that exists is the spirit of revelry here in the city of New Orleans, and they still know how to have a lot of fun, as did the Memphis offense on that last drive. Hankins was a perfect 5 for 5 for 53 yards, and the touchdown pass a few moments ago to his tight end right there, Brett Russell. FAU with an opportunity to counter here. And the kickoff return, it's Edgecombe, and Edgecombe giving FAU another good kickoff return, and still on his feet. Edgecombe down finally at the 28-yard line. Davis finally making a touchdown-saving tackle for the Tigers.
And Mark, DeIvory Edgecombe last year missed because of academics. Watch him right there just run through the angles, and then there he spin move. But this guy is an exciting football player. Plays as a wide receiver, a running back, really a versatile player, DeIvory Edgecombe.
And Bob, we were remarking before the game started after that 60-yard kickoff return that these two teams really haven't made big plays in the kicking game all season, so that giving FAU a bit of a lift. And good field position on their second possession. Smith fires complete to his fullback. That's William Rose, close to a first down inside the 20-yard line.
Mark, you talk about this FAU offense. They have an interesting recruiting philosophy. They say the quarterback is #1, the most important, but the fullback is #2 in recruiting priorities, and the tight end #3. A lot of schools in this country aren't even playing with fullbacks and tight ends, but for FAU, it's a priority.
Edgecombe, after the good kickoff return, takes the toss and squares his shoulders, gets inside the 10-yard line. Got a nice block from Brandon Jackson on the play, and it's going to set up a first and goal for the Owls.
Mark, you mentioned Brandon Jackson. I'm going to try to figure out where he is right here. I think he's the guard. If we just go ahead and let it roll. Yeah. Right there, Brandon Jackson, 65, gets an excellent block out there in the open field.
Here we go on first and goal. Smith incomplete in the end zone, intended for Jason Harmon. Harmon, a guy that is one of Smith's favorite targets, was the team's leading receiver towards the end of the season before Cortez Gent took over that title. But Harmon, one of the best athletes on offense.
Yeah, Mark, he really could be a wide receiver. He comes in with 56 catches. Again, you see FAU, no huddle offense, but notice Rusty Smith doesn't look over to the sidelines for the signals now. He's calling them himself.
That was his first incompletion. Now he finds Harmon complete on the little screen, and Harmon gets about 3 on the play, but we have our first flag of the game. Jason Harmon, 6'3", 210-pound junior.
Mark, you look at FAU, I said they're always going to have a tight end, a fullback, and a tailback in the game at the same time.
Ineligible receiver downfield. Number 84 on the offense. The player was covered. The ball went beyond the line of scrimmage.
Mark, getting back to my point, they're going to have regular personnel out there. Tight end, fullback, and running back, but they're going to be in a 2-back set 50% of the time, a 1-back set 35% of the time, and an empty and no-back set 15% of the time. But they always have the same personnel out there, so the defense doesn't know it's coming. You know, most teams substitute.
Therefore, there is no foul on the play.
And when they're in 1-back, put a 3rd wide receiver in. But they hide it. I think that's a great philosophy by Gary North. Doesn't tip your hand to the defense to know what formation grouping you're going to be in.
2 backs 50% of the time. Is that now becoming an anomaly in college football?
No one is in 2-back offense 50% of the time anymore in college football.
So now they say there's no infraction on the play. It sets up 3rd down and goal. Edgecombe, the deep back out of the eye, Rose the fullback. Smith on the toss. Edgecombe makes one player miss, but he's brought down to the 5-yard line. Short of the first down, Jada Brown makes the stop for the Tiger defense.
Mark, it looks like FAU is going to go with the field goal. You know, both of these field goal kickers have struggled. Worley Leroy, number 34 for FAU, 18 for 26 on the season, and he's had 2 blocked this year. So both teams have struggled in this field goal department.
This one a relative chip shot, Bob, coming from about the 12-yard line, a 22-yarder for Worley Leroy. Bit of a sharp angle, though. Regardless, he knocks it through, and the Owls take a 3-point lead, 10-7. In this, their first ever bowl game, a crew out of Boca Raton, Florida, led by Howard Schnellenberger. FAU with a 3-point lead with 7:23 to go in the first quarter, and season's greetings from all of us at ESPN to all of you at home. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davey and Stacey Dales down to the field. Bob, can you call it a good early defensive stop by Memphis on that last series?
Big stop by Memphis, because I promise you, in this game, holding someone to a field goal is a key factor now.
Here the Tigers on the kickoff return at the 30-yard line. Once again, it's Granberry who holds the team record in kickoff returns, and it has been quite an emotional year for the Tigers. Memphis voted after the tragedy of Taylor Bradford's death to play the game in his honor. Quarterback Will Hudgens threw for a career-high 346 yards, beginning with his first touchdown pass of the game, a 19-yarder over the middle to Carlos Singleton. Hudgens' second scoring pass was to Greg Hines for 4 yards, giving Memphis the lead for good, and the Tigers converted the emotionally charged day into a 24-21 victory over Marshall. As I said, that coming in the wake of the tragic death and shooting of Taylor Bradford, the late defensive lineman who passed away September the 30th. He was killed on campus.
Mark, it was an amazing stretch. We look at Tommy West. They played 3 games in 11 days. Played on a Saturday, a Thursday, and a Tuesday. But the story, the last 6 games, Mark, went from 2-4 to 5-1 to make it to a bowl game.
And it was their ability more than anything else, Bob, to win close games. This year they won 5 games by 3 points or less, and a good defensive play that time by Serge Sincere, number 45, with a stop on TJ Pitts. Sincere, one of those defensive leaders, and one of 13 seniors playing their final game for FAU. And we have an injured player down in the field. That was Pitts, who was hit on the play by Sincere.
TJ Pitts, Mark, a highly recruited guy out of the state of Georgia, had 110 yards in the last game against SMU. He's had some ankle injuries, and it looks like that's what they're working on right there. Yeah, it looks like right there, Mark, that ankle got turned.
Yeah, both he and the guy that plays in front of him, Joseph Doss, have been bothered by injuries throughout the course of the season. Doss's problems were of the knee variety, but they're sincere, and Pitt's now able to get up with the assistance of the training staff.
And you go back to the story of Memphis, you know, playing those 3 games, Mark, in 11 days.
Yeah.
Now think about playing on a Saturday, coming back Thursday, and then playing on a Tuesday. You know, they went up to Arkansas State, and lightning and rain forced the game to be postponed. They wanted to start the game at 10 o'clock at night. And Tommy West says, no, we're not starting that game at 10 o'clock at night. So they ended up canceling that football game.
And all of that in the wake of the death of Taylor Bradford. And Tommy West able to manage his teams emotionally and adroitly, really with good sensitivity. You know, it really turned on the fact that, and you see the initials TB, Taylor Bradford. It really turned on the fact that that Tuesday of the Marshall game, Bradford's father came in and spoke to the team and urged them to move on, deal with the tragic loss, but still take the next step forward.
Mark, they say Taylor Bradford's dad was unbelievable, talking about how life goes on. Even though I lost a son, life goes on.
That pass incomplete. No flag on the play. And getting back to the Bradford story, on October the 1st, Bradford died after a shooting at a residential complex on the Memphis campus. He crashed a car he was driving into a tree a short distance away on campus, into a tree. After he was shot, emergency workers answering the wreck call discovered that Bradford had been shot at the time, and he died later at a Memphis hospital. Several football players tied a large red ribbon to the tree in memory of their friend, and they have commemorated him with that sticker on their helmets collectively. Sutherland into the punt now for the Tigers at his own 25.
Well, this is where Memphis has really struggled in the punt game.
A fair catch called at the 26-yard line by Polo. FAU with the lead and possession of the football after that 34-yard punt. Rusty Smith has been firing on all cylinders. We'll be right back. Well, Capital One Bowl Week featuring over 20 bowl games in 12 days on the ESPN Family of Networks continues as UCLA Bruins take on number 17 BYU in the Pioneer Las Vegas Bowl. Part of Capital One Bowl Week on ESPN Saturday night at 8 Eastern. First down and 10 for FAU. Smith wide open to Jane. And Lester Jane across midfield at the 45-yard line of Memphis, and another first down. A huge chunk of real estate. They picked up 30 on the play.
Mark, the release of Rusty Smith is a little bit different, but the result is positive as he hit big Lester Jean, the freshman, at 6'3", 185. But see how he slings that football, really brings it from the hip. Excellent pressure right there by Stephen Turner, number 97.
Smith this time hands it off to Charles Pierre, and Pierre piled up right at the 45. Bob, you talked about his motion. Quarterback Rusty Smith. Surprisingly, they say that he hasn't had a lot of footballs batted down at the line of scrimmage as a result of that. What do you make of that?
Well, Mark, first of all, you know, he was a baseball player, and he never was really coached a lot on throwing a football. He just threw it like a baseball. But I talked to Gary Nord, the offensive coordinator, before the game. They just haven't messed with it because they really have not thought it was a big problem. So they've let him stay in his comfort zone. And I tell you, he can sling the football now.
There are some at FAU that feel that he has the same type of similar throwing motion as Phillip Rivers, and we all know that he turned out pretty good with passes like that, complete once again to Lester Jean, the 6'3" freshman, as we go back to John Saunders in the studio. John, what's going on?
Well, Jonesy, it's our SportsCenter 30-30 update. Barry Bonds told a judge on Friday he wants to keep 2 top-notch Bay Area defense lawyers to lead his legal team, even though they previously represented potential witnesses against him. Mike Bellotti spoke to UCLA on Thursday, but the Oregon head coach has decided he will stay at Oregon. SportsCenter at 11 on ESPN News.
All right, thanks a lot, John. And this pass complete to Edgecombe, and Edgecombe has been making plays and makes another one. Touchdown, Owls. Edgecombe once again striking with clinical swiftness.
And Mark, that was just too easy. I mean, DeIvory Edgecombe just released out of the backfield, wide open. Brandon Patterson, number 2, downfield, missed the tackle for Memphis, but that was just too easy right there.
The Owls piling up big numbers, albeit early in the ballgame, with 5 minutes to go in the first quarter. 17 points on the board. And Edgecombe doing a great job not only in the passing game here, but in special teams and kickoff returns. Edgecombe, once again, Smith with another touchdown pass. Back in the Louisiana Superdome for the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. FAU in its first ever bowl appearance. They made it to a bowl game faster than any other team in NCAA history in just 7 years. Really a program still in its infancy. Leading by 10 points. Ryan Peros kicking off this time for FAU. At the 15-yard line, it's Granberry once again. Had a good kickoff return last time. This time stopped up in the 30. Let's take one more look at the key play, that touchdown.
Mark, this is too easy. DeIvory Edgecombe is just going to release in the flat, and there's a pretty big void out here. Now, as this play develops, look at the huge hole, but right here, watch the safety, Brandon Patterson. Looks like he's going to make the open field tackle and just kind of gets outrun right there. Very poor job just of open field tackling by this Memphis defense.
And for Edgecombe, that was his 4th touchdown reception of the season. And when you look at the speed on this team, you know, the first to find out about it was the University of Minnesota early in the season, when Rusty Smith piled up 463 yards passing. And that was really a watershed moment in the program's history, albeit in its young history, because it was their first win ever over a BCS conference team. And the player injured down in the field for FAU. Watkins now getting up.
I'll say this, if you're going to start a football program, start it in South Florida. I mean, you think about it now. Think of Central Florida, what they've done. South Florida, now FAU. It just confirms to me again just how many quality players in the state of Florida now.
Memphis trying to counter. And a nice pass complete for the first down at the 45-yard line to Brett Russell for the first down for the Tigers. Back on May 1st, 1998, the then school president came to Howard Schnellenberger and he told him, you know what, this survey says that it's time to start up a football team. That was Tony Cantonise's dream and vision, and it came to fruition. August 12th, their first practice, first win on 2001, September 8th, and the program continues to take significant steps towards being a major player on the landscape. There was a 2-year transition from 1AA to 1A, and they have arrived now.
And Mark, we spent some time with Howard Schnellenberger last night. You can see on his face how rewarding this experience has been for him. How about last night? We're out in front of the hotel. He is greeting the charter, his group of alumni that came in. They were 8 hours late getting here because of some transportation difficulties with the airplane. He's out there shaking each one of their hands as they get off the bus. I mean, he has built this program literally from scratch.
Facilities continue to get better. The pass is going to be ruled incomplete at the 35-yard line once again for Brett Russell. Corey Small defending on the play. Small with 5 interceptions on the season for FAU. But back to Coach Schnellenberger and the job that he's done there. The building continues to mount there. They have a stadium proposal that they're hoping to complete by 2010, a 30,000 seat open air stadium on campus. It's been okayed already, and they could actually be playing in it by 2009 if they get naming rights sooner rather than later.
Well, the amazing thing is just go back to those first classes, Mark, where he was just selling a dream. I mean, there were no visible signs of anything. There was no practice field. There were no meeting rooms, no coaches' offices, no players.
No players to host the visiting recruits.
No players to host. So, I mean, you were completely selling a dream.
Memphis.
As Memphis is going to take a timeout here. and just let this thing's replay a little bit. Brett Russell, that tight end, catching the ball on the sidelines. Let's take another look at it right here.
Looked a little closer from this angle, but does he have possession? Because the official that came over indicated he was juggling.
I think that's an excellent call, Mark. Yeah, he was juggling that football. You said it right there. Really good job by Corey Small of just dislodging that football enough to where that would not be ruled possession.
Russell unable to hang on to it, and think about that potential reception. You think about the job that Martin Hankins has done at quarterback this year after that opening game loss, the 3-point loss to Ole Miss, in which he threw 5 interceptions. That can be traumatic for a quarterback, Bob.
Well, Mark, he better watch tonight, because these DBs from FAU, Tavius Polo, number 5, the freshman, he has 7 interceptions for a corner, which is unbelievable. I mean, it's a record for FAU, obviously, but it's 4th in the NCAA. Corey Small, number 26, the other corner, has 5 interceptions. I mean, never do you find corners that have 12 interceptions between the two of them. But they're both undersized guys, Mark, and Memphis has those big, tall receivers.
It was Polo that snapped Andre Woodson of Kentucky's consecutive passes without interception streak earlier this season.
You know, Mark, that was the last interception he had. I mean, he had 7 early in October, so he's been on a drought a little bit now.
Well, maybe teams started going away from him just a little bit.
There you go. I like that positive spin.
Hankins, and that's batted away by Joseph, Greg Joseph, the free safety. The pass was intended for Ernest Williams, and it's 4th down. In comes the punting unit for the Tigers.
Yeah, Greg Joseph, the nickelback in the game. FAU playing 5 DBs. Tell you, a couple big stops here, back-to-back series by FAU. And Mark, I mentioned earlier, this is where Memphis has struggled. They're 117th in the country in net punt right here, so they've really struggled in the punting game.
There's Polo standing on his own 15-yard line for FAU. Brett Sutherland punting for Memphis. His second one of the night. He averages 40 per on the season. Looking for a bounce, and he gets a great one. An auspicious bound all the way down to the 13-yard line. And Stacy, tell us what's up with Joseph Doss and that injury.
Well, actually, running back TJ Pitts, Mark, has left the stadium at the 7-minute mark. He injured the left ankle. They brought him out of the game. They sat him down, took his shoe off, and they evaluated that left ankle. He looked clearly to be in a lot of pain. They put a walking boot on him immediately and then took him off the field. Guys, the return for Pitts does not look promising, so a big load for tailback Doss.
Yeah, Doss going to have to do it himself here at this position. They do have Michael Barnes, who's filled in as Pitts taken off the field moments ago. 1st and 10 for Rusty Smith in the Owls offense. Incomplete at the 13. You know, Rusty Smith and his entire offensive unit made some very bold predictions at the start of the season about winning the Sun Belt Conference, and they were able to pay off on those predictions. Smith was named starter right from the beginning of the season. That helped set the tone and really let him settle into the job quite a bit.
Well, he's named the Sun Belt Player of the Year this year, and actually was recruited to FAU. They were up watching another guy practice, and he caught the attention of Gary Nord, the offensive coordinator.
There's Rose, and Rose is brought down just short of the 20-yard line. It'd be 3rd down and about 5 coming up for FAU. Rose comes up hobbling just a little bit.
You know, Mark, this Memphis defense has really struggled. I said they're 100th in the nation in total defense. We look at Rick Kravitz, the new coordinator. He came over last year. Tommy West actually fired Joe Lee Dunn after the 3rd game of the season. They've gone from that 3-3 defense. We take a look at Tommy West to a 4-man front. But they've had a lot of injuries, particularly up front on the defensive line. But 3rd down defense is where they've really struggled.
Their whole credo and motto this year in Memphis has been roaring back. And this is Rose with a nice reception out of the backfield to pick up a 1st down for FAU. He got 11 on that play with 2:38 to go in the 1st quarter. They convert.
And again, William Rose, the fullback, Mark. Watch him right here. He's going to go in motion, then he's going to kind of hide and come back under, kind of an old NFL route with the fullback starting to the flat, then breaking back inside. Memphis just turns them loose. Again, that's kind of an old NFL play with the fullback as the receiver.
He's a versatile guy, averages 5.4 yards a rush and about 6-7 yards per catch. This time it's B.J. Manley with his first rush of the game. And Manley gets near the 34-yard line. Rose getting a breather on the sidelines. He's been a valuable piece to what they like to do offensively. 4 rushes today, receptions, for a total of 43 yards.
Mark, this FAU team, #1 in the country in turnover margins. They've only lost 14 turnovers all season, so they protect the football very well. Big part of it is the quarterback, Rusty Smith, makes such good decisions.
They protect him pretty well, amongst the nation's leader in least sacks allowed. And a dropped pass by Harmon. He was thinking about running perhaps before he made that catch. You won't see that happen too often.
Again, Harmon's listed as a tight end, but you see him lined up at receiver. Really just a good little route, wide open, Mark, and you said it. I mean, that's the old adage of trying to run before you catch it. The first team all Sun Belt. This guy's a talented athlete.
FAU with 170 yards already here in the first quarter. 3rd down and 7 coming up. They were able to convert last time on 3rd down. Smith looking to set up the screen and under duress. It's incomplete, and they'll have to punt. Good pressure up front by Clinton McDonald. McDonald, the defensive voice of that front 4, which lost a couple of valuable members early in the season.
And Mark, Jeremy Rocket, watch number 25 right here smell out this screen. Yeah, you are allowed to hold him as long as that ball's thrown behind the line of scrimmage. That was an excellent job of just hugging up on that back and taking away the screen.
All right, and Keegan Peterson now going to punt on his own 25-yard line, averaging 40.5, and he shanks this one badly. It'll barely cross the 40-yard line. That'll give Memphis a nice opportunity. And for more on Monday Night Football in that matchup, here's Mike Tirico. All right, and back here in New Orleans, it's 1st down and 10 for the Tigers at their own 37-yard line. Memphis down by 10 points. Hankins given time, going up top, jump ball incomplete. Duke Calhoun couldn't come down with it. It was defended nicely by Corey Small. You got 6'4" Calhoun, Bob, against 5'10" Corey Small.
Well, Mark, you said it all the way. I mean, Duke Calhoun, their leading wide receiver at 6'4". Actually, a little pushing going on there by Duke. Surprising Duke didn't go up and make that play, to be quite honest. He was in pretty good position to make a play right there.
After making his first 7 passes completions, Hankins has missed on his last 4. Pulls the trigger, and this one is complete at the 44-yard line to his tight end, Brett Russell.
You know, Mark, Martin Hankins is an interesting guy. Grew up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Holds some 5A passing records down there, but he went to Southeast Louisiana out of high school. Played for Hal Mumme. Threw for over 7,000 yards in 2 years. Hal Mumme goes to New Mexico State. Martin doesn't want to head out west, so he goes to Memphis. This guy has been well coached now and has thrown the football a lot.
Yeah, if you play for Hal Mumme, you know how to pitch it a little bit. Out of the shotgun, Hankins showing off his legs and his running ability, close to the 1st down, right at midfield. It appears as if he got it. And you talk about his late season rally. They won 5 of their last 6 games. He really caught fire. It was nice to see him be able to bounce back after that hip injury, which caused him to miss 2 games mid-season.
Well, in the big game for him, Mark, he went back to Hattiesburg. Southern Miss. He threw for over about right at 400 yards and 4 TDs against Southern Miss in his hometown. And that's really what turned their season around, that game.
With 4 seconds to go in the period, Hankins, another jump ball, and once again the FAU defensive backfield, Polo that time, wins it, this time against Singleton. And that'll be the end of the first 15 minutes of play, which are now in the books. In the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl, the Owls looking good in their first ever bowl appearance. Back after this. And welcome back, everyone, to the Louisiana Superdome. Season's greetings from all of us at ESPN to all of you, and a great bowl season coming up. Over 20 bowl games on the ESPN family of networks to come in the ensuing days. This one, the second one in.
The great thing about these early bowl games, Mark, these players and coaches, they get to finish these bowl game experiences and be home for Christmas, which is a huge factor to these guys.
On 2nd and 10, Doss with a nice sprint for the first down for the Tigers. Doss has been hampered by injuries for most of the season. There was a lot of expectations placed on him coming into the season, but he got nicked up in the spring and was re-injured against Ole Miss in that first game of the season with a knee injury, and tell you, he got back to it though.
Mark, guy from Memphis has really had an outstanding career. I mean, 440 yards in 05, 910 in 06, 715 this year. But like you said, he's had some knee injuries. Injured that knee in the first year, but he's a good, solid football player now.
Gave them a first down and 10, and we got a whistle down on the field. Stacey Dales reporting a few moments ago that TJ Pitts,
Memphis,
the backup tailback who was getting some touches, has been taken off the field and into the locker room.
You know, it was interesting. Tommy West was telling us, Mark, they really struggled on in practice on Wednesday, and yesterday brought the team in the Superdome. Actually practiced for an hour and a half yesterday. Said their timing was off. They weren't even going to practice yesterday, which was the day before the game, but he was concerned about their timing. You see a little bit of that right now in this football game. They seem a little bit sluggish to me as a team compared to Florida Atlantic.
Tommy West had pointed to a couple of key moments in his season and be able to, use the right touch, press the right button, so to speak, to get them back on track. And Bobby talked about the turning point of the season really being that Southern Mississippi game that you alluded to a little bit earlier. On a fourth quarter play, 4th and 12 against Southern Miss, they were down 12 points, and a key play right there, and then Hankins coming back for the touchdown strike right there to Carlos Singleton on a 52-yard scoring pass with a minute to go to seal the victory. And that really got them going in the right direction, continued them going in the right direction, and they haven't looked back ever since. Joseph Doss with another nice carry. Tackled by Greg Joseph. Doss got 11 on that scamper.
Amazing about this Memphis football team. I mean, their running backs have carried the ball 311 times, Mark. Only 2 fumbles all year, and Doss is a guy virtually never fumbles it. 2 fumbles and 517 carries in his career. We're not going to jinx him with that now, are we?
What in the name of D'Angelo Williams is going on? Doss brought down behind the line of scrimmage. He'll lose about 3 yards on that play. Nice stop by Robert Sinclair. We're here at the Louisiana Superdome. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie and Stacey Dales for the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Memphis taking on FAU. FAU making it to a bowl game for the first time ever, and faster than any other team has done it in NCAA history. They're out of the Sun Belt Conference, the conference champions, against the Sun Belt the Conference USA representative from Memphis. This pass complete to Maurice Jones, and Jones brought down, and he is rocked. He was writhing in pain down there for a little bit. Jones was nicked up in the last regular season game of the season, suffered a shoulder injury.
Yeah, Mark, that was a good luck lick by France Joseph. Watch right here, number 56.
And the ball came loose.
Comes in and knocks that football loose. And boy, you can see Maurice Jones, who came into this game with a shoulder injury. Watch France Joseph. Luckily, France Joseph wasn't injured right there, ducking that head down.
And it's going to be FAU football.
But really, Mo Jones just kind of gave that football up, Mark.
I think the hit might have been so severe that,
yeah, it looked like Tavius Polo came in there, number 5, and knocked that football out.
And Jones is still down on the field, being attended to by the Memphis training staff.
Mark, this is under review, but there's Franz Joseph. Look at him duck his head down, but there's Tavius Polo. His knee actually looked like Greg Joseph, number 3, came in and knocked that football out.
Looked like it was loose before he was down. This one might give us a clearer picture.
But look right there.
Oh, his knee might have touched.
His knee was down right there.
So if his knee's down and he has possession, then it's dead right there, perhaps.
Yeah, Mark, you said it right there. That knee is down. Yeah, that will be ruled that he had possession of that football when he was down. Right there, the knee is down, and he has possession of the football. So, yeah, he is down right there.
And Maurice Jones, though, injured against SMU back on November the 24th. Injured his shoulder, has a torn labrum that he's still playing with. And he's going to have that repaired after the season, and now shaken up again down in the field.
Yeah, and a guy that's fought through some off-the-field issues, Mark. You know, he was suspended twice since last year for off-the-field issues. But you said it, has the respect of this entire football team playing through that injury, playing with that injury that a lot of guys wouldn't play with.
And Bob, you know, one of the things that we thought would be one of the prevailing themes going in, one of the things to look for, Jones, Black, Calhoun, Singleton, the 4 tall receivers, all right around 6'3", 6'4", going up against the shorter defensive backs of FAU and being able to take advantage of it. So far, it really hasn't been much of an advantage for Memphis, as it looks like they're going to bring the card out and take Maurice Jones off the field that way.
Mark, Franz Joseph, 56th, FAU's #1 tackler. Watch right there. That's where a guy gets injured, when he drops that helmet down like Franz Joseph did. Watch him coming in right here. That's the worst thing you can do right there if you're a football player, is drop that head.
Here's the call from the official.
After review, the ruling on the field is reversed. The runner was down prior to the ball coming loose. The ball will be returned to Memphis at the 24.5-yard line. 3rd down.
Great job by the Big Ten crew. I mean, that's why you have, obviously, a replay, and that knee was down.
That's Maurice Jones down on the field from Memphis. Well, Capital One Bowl Week, folks, featuring over 20 bowl games in 12 days on the ESPN family networks, including 3 games on Saturday. First at 1 Eastern on ESPN2, the Southern Mississippi team facing the number 22 Cincinnati Bearcats in the PapaJohns.com Bowl. Then on ESPN at 4:30 Eastern, Nevada takes on New Mexico in the New Mexico Bowl, and UCLA facing BYU in the Pioneer Las Vegas Bowl at 8 Eastern.
You know what I love about the bowls? Some people argue 32 bowls, teams that are 6-6 playing in bowls, that there's too many. But as a former coach, I love the idea of spreading it around, Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, 32 teams will have a chance to win their last football game of the year. And that is huge, huge heading into the offseason.
And that teams always and coaches always talk about the extra practice time, which usually proves to be invaluable, especially for the younger players.
Well, there's no question. I mean, you have 15 total practices now in the spring. With bowls, you can practice twice a day if you want. You can practice 3 times a day. You get more practices for the bowl than you do in spring football.
Looks like they finally got things in place to take Maurice Jones off the field. You can see the frustration on his face. Saw it a few moments ago. Jones really one of the leaders offensively for Memphis. So much so that you know, Hankins, the starting quarterback, said that he wishes he had one more year to work with the likes of guys like Jones. They are too deep at the receiver position at both the X and the Y spot. And Memphis has 3rd down come up and 8 to go. Toss the lone back. Looking over to the sideline and getting the call. The receiver screen complete and stopped up short of the first down. At the 22-yard line is Duke Calhoun. Nice tackle on the play made by Andre Clark.
Boy, Mark, you're right. I mean, Andre Clark that time, a backup Sam linebacker, made a big-time play in the open field right there on the screen.
And Hankins, meanwhile, has now gone over 3,000 yards passing for the season. Keep in mind that here's a guy that missed 2 games mid-year. Now in to attempt the field goal is Matt Reagan. They're going to spot it just inside the 30.
Matt Reagan, Mark, struggled early in the year, missed 4 straight early, but he's bounced back a little bit late in the season.
And bounces back here. Bob knocks it right down Main Street between the pipes to cut the FAU lead to 7 points. Back with more right after this. Meanwhile, back into the ball game.
We take
this
a look,
is
Mark.
Joey Mack kicking off, who has replaced Matt Reagan. On the kickoff return, that's George Allen. And he takes it out beyond the 40-yard line.
Yeah, Mark, you mentioned Joey Mack had his opportunity to kick that field goal. But earlier in the game, Matt Reagan kicked the extra point, who had struggled. So a change right there by Tommy West, giving Joey Mack the opportunity to replace Reagan on that field goal.
So it'll be first down and 10 from the 41-yard line. Charles Pierre, the lone back, actually the tailback out of the eye. William Rose, the fullback. Smith going up top, has a man, and there's going to be a flag on that one. Number 16, Cortez Gent, tripped up by Mathis.
Yeah, Mark, Larico Mathis, the corner in the football game. Gent on the takeoff down the sideline. Clearly that time the penalty on Larico Mathis.
Number 21 on the defense. 15-yard penalty from the previous spot and an automatic first down.
First penalty of the night against Memphis. And that moves the ball into Memphis territory. Gent is the guy, the home run hitter for this FAU team. Leading receiver with 1,030 yards coming up to go along with 9 touchdowns. His nickname is Snoop. His sister gave it to him after the cartoon character, but you can't snoop or sleep on him anymore. It's not a secret. First down and 10. Charles Pierre with the carry this time close to the 40-yard line, stopped up by Grant.
Mark, you talked about Cortez Gent. I mean, he's played against some great corners this year. Played against the Florida Gator corners. He also played against the USF South Florida corners. And I mean, he's run by everybody this year. So this guy's a big-time player right here.
A big part of what they do. Second down and 7 for FAU. Smith complete to Harmon. And Harmon's going to get a first down right around the 30-yard line, atoning for that earlier miscue. When he dropped the last pass, he picked up 11. Gotta like the works of Jason Harmon so far outside of that last drop that he had, Bob.
Yeah, Mark, they say he has huge hands. I mean, just a very athletic guy. Made his name by jumping over defenders after the catch. You know, they call it the Harmon leap. So we're looking forward to seeing one of those Harmon leaps.
Got to give us at least one tonight. First down and 10 for FAU. Pierre, a little misdirection counter play. Charles Pierre still on his feet and down to the 15-yard line.
Mark, this is a great little draw right here. It kind of starts like a sprint action, and then Pierre takes it back against the grain. Watch this play. Kind of a little sprint draw, and this is a powerful little running back, Pierre, now.
Well, the coaches say they'd like him to make people miss a little bit more, Bob, but the way that he's been running, I don't have a problem with it.
He benches 450 pounds now. He's going to put that weight training to good use and try to run people over now.
17-10, FAU leading. And marching here, Smith into the end zone. Touchdown. Bonner with the catch. Chris Bonner with his third touchdown catch of the season.
And Mark, that was a great little inside move by Bonner, then broke it back to the outside and beat Darius Davis, number 4, the freshman corner. That was like stealing right there. He set that little inside move up and then broke it back to the corner.
Orly Leroy now in for the extra point for the Owls. And FAU with a 14-point lead right now in the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Well, the Tiger is a fast animal, folks, but remember, it's the owl that sees at night. Bourbon Street in New Orleans, Louisiana, aglow at night. The revelry continues down there and inside the Louisiana Superdome. If you're an FAU fan right now, Chris Bonner with a touchdown catch a few moments ago, giving FAU a 14-point lead.
You got to give it back to me now. What'd you tell me? The Tiger is, I got the owl sees at night.
The Tiger is fast.
But the owl sees at night.
Yeah, so maybe I'm trying to get at the fact that, you know, it's important, more important maybe to have good vision.
Yeah, I like it. I can work with that.
And good vision on that special teams coverage. As FAU gets down to stymie the kickoff return. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davies. Stacey Dale's down in the field. Bob, we expected coming into this game with two high-powered offenses to see a lot of points. It's been that way so far.
Well, Mark, a lot of people were worried about FAU had never been to a bowl game. Would they just accept the fact they're happy to be here? Memphis, a lot of experience, 4 of the last 5 years in bowls. But, I mean, FAU right now, impressive. Yeah. I mean, Memphis has to try to keep up because it doesn't look like Memphis can slow FAU's offense down.
Howard Schnellenberger is undefeated in bowl games, 4-0 coming into this one. And his defense now becoming almost impregnable. Nice play as Doss is brought down by Serge Sincere.
Yeah, Mark, I mean, this is an FAU defense that's 99th in the country in scoring defense, gives up about 34 points a game. You have to love the way Howard dresses for these games now, don't you?
Old
That's
school,
a statement.
The sport coat and tie right out of the Bear Bryant School of Coaching Attire on the side.
You know, he used to smoke that pipe on the sidelines, but I guess he gave smoking that pipe up a couple years ago. Yeah.
Teaching old dogs some new tricks after all. Here's Doss out of the backfield. Makes the catch over the 20-yard line and downstairs to Stacey.
Well, Mark and Bob, we just can't underestimate how important this bowl game is for FAU. You know, you look at Rusty Smith, quarterback, Sun Belt Player of the Year. How about the fact, guys, that there's still not enough scholarship money in the summer times for these guys to pay for their tuition? Rusty has to work as a valet driver in Boca Raton, guys, just to be able to pay for his tuition, his gas, his food. I mean, that's devotion to make a commitment to come to a program like this. But there again, you're playing for Howard Schnellenberger.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Stacey, they keep winning. He's going to get some pretty good tips as that valet driver down there in South Florida.
Up in Boca, they tip pretty well. That pass almost picked off, but caught in a jump ball situation by Duke Calhoun, who picked up 17 yards and enough for the first down, in and out of the arms of Tahim Acevedo on the play.
Martin Hankins probably did everything you're not supposed to do as a quarterback. Watch, he throws this thing falling backwards right here. Gets excellent pressure from Andre Clark. But when you have those big, tall, talented wide receivers, wow. That had to be pass interference early, didn't it? But how about Martin Hankins getting away, just throwing it up to Duke Calhoun.
Down about 14 points, but pick up a key first down there. And here's another jump ball situation. This one is caught down to the 22. Carlos Singleton, all of 6'9", lanky and lean, picking up 40 on the reception.
And Mark, Memphis will throw about 10 or 12 deep balls. And that time, I mean, that's 6'8", going against Chris Bartels at 5'10". How about this guy now?
That's a post-up move.
Big Singleton. I mean, they took a chance on him, Mark. He was a basketball player in high school. He's added 20 pounds since he's been at Memphis. That's why you go recruit those big, tall receivers like that.
Tommy West, the head coach of Memphis, effusive in his praise and the potential for what he might ultimately become Singleton. Doss hit twice in the backfield. He'll lose a couple yards on that play. Back at the 25-yard line, Franz Joseph and Jermaine Council teaming up. And that's Joseph, number 56, first team All Sun Belt Conference this year, and the leading tackler on the team.
Mark, I'm going to have Singleton send you his workout program because he has doubled his bench press since he has been at Memphis. He's added 20 pounds, but he's doubled his bench press. And they say those strong hands and forearms that he's developing, I think you could see that on that last catch. Kind of snatched that ball.
And in the red zone is where he really becomes effective. They run a little screen for him, but it's incomplete. Hankins misfiring that time. It'll set up a 3rd down and 13 now for Memphis.
And Mark, don't be bringing those 6'9" receivers across that middle now. I mean, that's a big old target. Very seldom you see 6'9" guys catching jailbreak screens now.
Little innovation there by Tommy West. Heads literally above everybody on the sidelines there. Had a game-winning touchdown catch against Southern Mississippi that we saw earlier this year. A turning point in the season for Memphis. He'll watch this 3rd and 13 from the sidelines though. Little pressure coming by FAU. Hankins picks it up and delivers a strike complete. It'll be 1st down and 10 at the 8-yard line to Calhoun making the catch. He got 16.
Yeah, Mark, he beat Tavius Polo, number 5, but you have to love Hankins and his release. I mean, this guy's been coached now. I mean, he brings that thing right from the ear. That was an impressive throw right there. I mean, he stepped up and gunned that thing.
Threw a rope. His dad was his former coach in high school. Under 7 minutes to play here in the first half. Doss with the handoff and stopped right near the line of scrimmage by Robert Sinclair. The 6'2" and 250-pound junior. They call him Doe. Going to be a veterinarian if everything works out according to his plan, and more effective in the pass rush, but that time good against the run. They nickname him Doc. Pardon me.
Yeah, Mark, been fighting a knee injury all year long.
At West Palm Beach, Florida.
Really, FAU, their 2 best defensive linemen, Josh Pinnock and Josh Savage, out for the season, so they're depleted up front.
Here's a reverse. And nowhere to go on this play by Williams. Williams stopped up for a loss. Serge Sincere there to make the play.
I mean, Mark, they come with the reverse. You're going to see Hankins out here. It's a pretty decent block right there on Jermaine Council.
That's very flattering, Bob. That was flattering.
But Serge Sincere, a great story himself, Mark. A walk-on, developed into the 2nd leading tackler, first team All Sun Belt. 3-year starter as a walk-on, Serge Sincere.
Former high school teammate of Omar Hagabut, the quarterback at Troy. Troy was supposed to be the team that won the Sun Belt, but FAU had other plans. That pass incomplete. Intended for Taz Knockham. And it'll be 4th and goal coming up. If you're the Tigers, what do you do? And as we ponder that question, in comes the field goal unit. And Joey Mack is the guy that comes onto the field to kick it this time, replacing Matt Reagan, who has been the guy for most of the season. There's Mack, number 42. Made the last one. This one will come from about 35, 36 yards out. We're going to call it 35. And he is true once again. Cut the lead to 24-13. Memphis in its 5th bowl. Actually 4th in its last 5 years, and trying to mount a comeback here. Back in New Orleans, 9-point lead for FAU. Here's the Aflac trivia question. FAU is in their 7th year of football. Who did FAU beat for the program's first ever win? Slippery Rock, Bethune-Cookman, Marist, or FIU, Florida International? To text, all you got to do to play is text CF for ESPN, and standard message rates may apply. This is one that fans out there get a chance to answer and play on. Squibs it all the way down to the 30-yard line. David Muniz takes it back to the 45-yard line, and Rusty Smith will take the reins of the offense from there. And he's looked impressive early here, Bob.
Mark, he really has. I mean, you can see Sun Belt Player of the Year. He threw for 463 yards against Minnesota. Came in with 27 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions, only a sophomore. This guy's impressive now. I can see why it's a legitimate argument that he's the second best college quarterback in the state of Florida behind Tim Tebow now. I mean, that's legit now so far.
It's been a good part of his formative years working for his grandpa's restaurant and at it during the summers. A place called Russ Doe's just around the block from Jacksonville Municipal Stadium, close to where he grew up. Out to midfield.
Mark, it's time this Memphis defense steps up now. I mean, this Memphis defense, they've given up over 400 yards in 7 football games. 2 games they gave up over 600 yards to East Carolina and Central Florida. It's time right now they make a play now.
On the reverse.
And there's a play.
Yeah, that's the play that FAU likes to run, but that time no room, and shut down nicely by Alton Starr. Put the hit on Rob Hausler on the reverse.
And Mark, they rotate safeties between Brandon Patterson and Alton Starr. We saw Brandon Patterson early miss a tackle. That is a big-time open field tackle. There was no hesitation at all right there by Alton Starr.
We talked about them, Bob, having to make a play. They made one there. 3rd down and 6 now for the Owls. Smith going up top. Has a man, and it's caught inbounds. Wow, Cortez Gent walked the tightrope down the sidelines, getting in behind Mathis to make the play.
And Mark, what happened? Alton Starr, who made a great tackle in the open field. This time the free safety is back here playing the hash. He's supposed to have deep help, but watch, he falls down. Watch Alton Starr right there, trips, and he leaves the corner all on his own, but still a great catch by Cortez Gent going up and making a play.
Picked up 32 on that one. There's a little receiver screen incomplete at the 19-yard line as we go to John Saunders in the studio for a SportsCenter 30 at 30 update.
All right, Jonesy, thanks a lot. Again, Barry Bonds told a judge on Friday he wants to keep his 2 lawyers to lead his legal team, despite the fact they had previously represented potential witnesses against him. And Mike Bellotti spoke to UCLA on Thursday, but decided and told the school he will stay on as Oregon head coach. SportsCenter at 11 on ESPN News.
All right, John, the pass complete, meanwhile, to Harmon inside the 10-yard line. That'll set up 1st down and goal for the Owls as Harmon makes the catch for 13 yards.
Mark, excellent job by Rusty Smith. He wanted to go front side to the 2 receivers, and then he came backside to Harmon, the tight end. Excellent job of just being patient, going to your 2nd or 3rd option on that route.
First and goal from the 6-yard line now for FAU. Charles Pierre looking to find a seam. Check that. That was Edgecombe. Edgecombe takes it inside the 5 to the 4-yard line.
And Mark, it really is kind of refreshing to watch a non-spread offense have success. I mean, I kind of like this 2-back, run the ball, mix it, run and pass, kind of pro-style offense. I mean, it's fun to watch, kind of refreshing.
Yeah, that's become the exception now.
No question, no question. And this guy here is no question. He's old school. He's going to play with the fullback and the tight end now. And he's going to wear that matching lapel and that tie.
Sartorial splendor on the sidelines from Howard Schnellenberger. Perfect in bowl games. Smith trying to keep him that way, and he scores a touchdown pass to William Rose.
Mark, we talked about in recruiting, it's quarterback number 1, it's fullback number 2, and it's tight end number 3. And watch the fullback off the play action. Great job. They picked the linebacker right there. Number 81 came inside and picked him, but they snuck the fullback, William Rose, to the flat. You don't see much of that, so it's hard to defend now for modern-day defenses.
William Rose with a 7 touchdown catch this season and of his career. Flag down on the extra point. They'll hold off for just a moment here.
You know what's nice, Mark? The versatility of players. You know, this has become such a specialized era.
Yeah.
But the fullbacks catch, they block and they run. The tight end flexes out. You know, in modern spread, it's a specialty deal. But you have guys now like the tight end and fullback that do a lot of different things.
Howard Schnellenbecker keeping it true to the old school. Going to do it over on the extra point, move it back a little bit. The result, the same, and we have another flag down. Meanwhile, for Smith, you saw his father in the stands a few moments ago. That was Smith's 4th touchdown pass today.
False start. Number 71 on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Repeat the try.
This is turning into an odyssey on the extra point. This is going to be a 30-yard extra point now.
Well, and as you know, with this Memphis offense, they can heat up, Mark, so every point is a factor. I tell you, Rusty Smith's a young-looking guy, isn't he? Looks a little bit like Colt McCoy of Texas.
He's pretty long, too, at 6'5", and that's what happens. The law of averages sometimes can catch up to you.
I'll tell you, write that one down now. Write that one down.
With
Memphis going to score some points before this is over now.
Worley Leroy missing the extra point. Nothing misfiring on this play. William Rose with the catch on the pass from Rusty Smith. And Russell, who's your daddy? He is. Back with more after this.
He's looking for some love, isn't he? Look.
Howard Schnellenberger apparently inquiring about the last couple of penalties, which forced the extra point to become a 30-yard attempt. Misfiring a few moments ago, so it's 30-13 as opposed to 31-13.
Mark, Howard Schnellenberger used to call it advanced training when his teams went and played Division I schools. I think they're past that advanced training status of their program now.
It's not about just going out somewhere and picking up a big check. Return out to the 20 by Granberry as we go back to John in the studio.
Mark, to tell you that coming up on the Flomax halftime report, we'll talk about teams that are happy to be in bowl games, who might be the next head coach at UCLA, and Barry Bonds back again in court. We'll let you know exactly what he had to say there. That's all coming up on the Flomax halftime report. Jonesy, back to you.
All right, John, and season's greetings to you, John. 3:28 to go here in the first half of play. Boy, the coaching carousel continues to spin pretty vibrantly, doesn't it? You got to keep track of things. Memphis first down and 10. Hankins sets up a screen to Doss, and Doss has a couple of blocks in front of him. Got the first down out to the 35-yard line. Acevedo making the stop, but not before Doss got 15 yards on the play, and they're in hurry-up mode here.
Marcus, a great effort by Doss. He's going to come out of the backfield and then fall down and get up and release. Watch him all the way right here. He kind of gets hung up, gets knocked down right there by number 92, Gervonta Jackson, and gets up and catches the football.
Yeah, that wasn't by design, was it?
No, that wasn't sneaking and hiding that.
First down and 10 for the Tigers. Doss again. Got open and steps out of bounds at midfield. Picks up another Tiger first down. Got 15 again.
I'll tell you, Mark, we've watched a lot of football. That mixed extra point now. Memphis going to move the football. They're going to put a lot of points on the board before this game is over.
Memphis averaging about 296 yards passing per game. The 23rd ranked offense in the nation. Doss on the handoff. Picks up another good chunk of real estate. Inside the 35 to the 34-yard line for the Tigers. And there's some of his fan club that have made the trip from Memphis. It's about a 5.5-hour drive. And subsequent to that, a good chunk of fans have shown up.
Yeah, Mark.
And big weekend for Tiger fans. The football game tonight and then the basketball game tomorrow on ESPN. Georgetown taking on the Tigers in Memphis.
And Doss, I mean, Doss had 168 against UAB, 175 against Rice. I mean, he's capable of just exploding now.
Here he is again. Gets another opportunity. Takes it inside the 30. They are milking Doss.
Mark, what happens just schematically? FAU is playing a lot of two-safety look, just schematically daring Memphis to run the football. And it's just a numbers game where Memphis right now outnumbering them a little bit.
Bob, we take a break for the timeout called by FAU and talked about basketball and a few moments ago. Big game coming up tomorrow. Saturday's game is the first ever matchup of top 5 teams to be played in Memphis in Tiger basketball history. Georgetown, led by Roy Hibbert, the big center in the middle, all 7 foot of them. A towering force inside. It's going to be Georgetown, number 4, against number 2 Memphis.
Talk about John Calipari and I went to school together. He was a good little player now. I mean, he was the epitome
shooter,
of
defender,
a gym rat. Just a gym rat. You know, his home, his house where he lived was really adjacent to the high school. And he's a guy that just spent a lot of time playing hoops. Didn't play any football, didn't play any baseball. He was a basketball kind of junkie all the way.
That's all. Could you beat him? That's all.
He was a pretty good player.
I heard. You tell me. Will Hudgens making an appearance. He is the short yardage quarterback, and he's got some size to him. Carries it to the 25-yard line, close to another Tiger first down, depending on this spot. Will Hudgens actually started a couple of games in the middle of the season because of the hip injury to Martin Hankins.
Mark, he's a unique guy, Hudgens. I mean, he's the deep snapper on punts. Probably will be an NFL deep snapper. He is that good. Big old strong guy now at about 230 pounds, but Hankins back in the game.
Hudgens won the haircutting contest coming into this game. He has a nice big M carved into his dome, Mohawk style.
Well, Memphis lined up incorrectly right there. A little bit of confusion. Called timeout rather than take the timeout. Well, we thought there was going to be a shootout. I still think it will be a shootout, but the key for Memphis, they've had to settle for field goals several times now.
Well, we brought up our Aflac trivia question a little bit earlier. FAU is in their 7th year of football. Who did FAU beat for the program's first ever win? Slippery Rock State, Bethune-Cookman, Marist, or FIU? And the answer is Bethune-Cookman. Just their 2nd ever game. FAU beat Bethune-Cookman 31-28. The Owls finished their first season at 4-6 in 01.
Can I give a phase 2 to the Aflac?
Go ahead.
Who is the first team they ever lost to is on that graphic as well. They lost to Slippery Rock in their first game, and the reason they had 15 players, Mark, that couldn't get certified in time because FAU just starting out as a program didn't have anybody to certify. So they went up and played Slippery Rock without 15 guys and lost.
So many bases to cover. 3rd and short. And Hudgens back in to carry it and picks up the first down at the 24-yard line. Hankins comes back into the ballgame now for the Tigers. So the short yardage specialist comes in and gets it done once again.
You look up here, Mark, Memphis with no timeouts, no yellow slashes, but 1:37 in college football. That is an eternity now.
And it's worked out pretty well for the Tigers when it comes to using Doss. He's got 50 of his 55 yards on this drive. Play fake. Hankins behind his receiver and incomplete, intended for Brett Russell. And a 2nd down and 10 with 1:20 to go. And as you mentioned a few seconds ago, Bob, no timeouts for Hankins and the Tigers.
Boy, Mark, and Hankins wants that one back because he had Brett Russell wide open in the corner. It would have been a foot race for a touchdown, but he just flat threw it behind him right there.
Hankins has been hot in the 2nd half of the season.
Look right here. I mean, you're going to see Russell come open late. I mean, he is wide open. The ball clearly thrown behind him. That's why I say, Mark, they can't settle for field goals. I mean, they've had some opportunities for touchdowns.
2nd and 10 now. Hankins under some heat, and they get to him. There's going to be a flag thrown. They might have caught some of the face mask. Serge Sincere making the sack on the play for FAU. Sincere, the former walk-on.
Incidental grasping of the face mask. Number 45 on the defense. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. Repeat 2nd down.
Be down over.
Mark, first of all, watch this block by Doss right here. The little tailback. I mean, he's doing it all right now. Watch him step up right here. Boom. Chops France Joseph, and they're right there. I'm not sure. That could have been a 15-yard penalty on Serge Sincere.
Yeah. Second down and 5. Duke Calhoun split to the bottom of your screen. It's Calhoun's way, but comes inside, and it's incomplete. Williams couldn't hang on to it, throwing into the teeth of that very advantageous defense.
You go back to what Tommy West told us, Mark, right on the field before the game when he was concerned about the timing of this Memphis team, why they practiced it yesterday. I think you can see Hankins missed the wide open Brett Russell the play before, 2 plays ago. The timing is not right now with this passing team.
Third and 5. They fake the receiver screen, and it's a good fake. Touchdown, Tigers. Williams comes right back to score.
And Mark, you said it. They fake the screen. Watch Ernest Williams right here. He's going to come off and act like he blocks and then run straight down the field. Keep in mind, this is a team that throws a lot of screens. Look at Williams. Little cat and mouse right there. I mean, it froze Greg Joseph, number 3.
And that, you would think, is a pivotal score for the Tigers at this point. They had to settle for field goals prior to this. Extra point good, and it's a 10-point football game with 52 seconds to go in the second period.
Mark, we are going to have a late-night shootout. This may be a record game for how long it goes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say how many points, but there's going to be a bunch of points and a bunch of yards in this football game.
Yeah, Bob, we got 50 already on the board with a half to play still after this. And Hankins with a nice recovery. Looked impressive on that drive. I tell you, who looked really good on that drive was Joseph Doss.
Exactly, Mark. And you know, an ongoing problem in this game has been kickoffs. And you're sitting right here, Florida Atlantic, with 2 timeouts. Memphis has really struggled kicking the football off. If you're Memphis, get the ball down the field and don't encourage Florida Atlantic here to go for more points because they can score in a hurry.
Edgecombe has made some plays. He's back in kickoff return formation right now for FAU. The Owls with a couple timeouts remaining and 52 seconds on the clock. Mack to kick off.
Mark, they moved this kickoff back to the 30 this year. Now that college football season is coming to an end, it really has not been that significant of a change as far as starting field position, according to the statistics in college football this year.
Yeah, good point. Edgecombe at the 13. The Ivory Edgecombe out to the 35, 37-yard line, let's call it. Well, Howard Schnellenberger has been part of 4 collegiate national championships, including the 1984 Orange Bowl, where Miami won the school's first title. They defeated then #1 and unbeaten Nebraska in a memorable game, 31-30. Nebraska pulled within 1, but that was the defining play. And there's a look at his bowl history. Won the Peach, then Orange, Fiesta, and Liberty with Louisville in the last 2.
Mark, how about his wife, Beverly? Married 48 years. I mean, she was in the team picture yesterday. She's been there every step of the way now.
He's been as much a part of the building process as Schnellenberger, and the sack on the play by Clinton McDonald.
Well, Mark, this is a Memphis defense, 111th in the nation in sacks, but Freddie Barnett steps up and gets a big sack. Now, as you said, that was a huge score by the Memphis offense. And now FAU just content to get to the locker room up 10.
It certainly looks that way. They're going to let it run down with 14 seconds to go now in the first half. And if you're FAU, I guess you take it. 10-point lead into the locker room in this, their first ever bowl game. Fastest team ever to reach a bowl game in just 7 short years. And the first half comes to a close with FAU and Rusty Smith with a hot hand. And let's go downstairs to Stacy.
Coach, what's your reaction to the efficiency of your offense overall in the first half?
Well, first of all, this is going to be a great offensive football game, just like everybody said, huh? Well, I think our offense has done really well. Rusty is really having a good evening, and without the loss of a couple of drop balls, he would have been there perfect. Obviously, our defense has to find a way to slow these guys down.
Slight shift in the momentum with that Memphis touchdown. What do you tell your players at the half?
Well, I told them just the same thing I told them in the game before the game started. It was going to be a long game. It wouldn't be one at the half. It wouldn't be one at the third quarter. It'll be one either at the end of the game or at the end of overtime.
Okay, thanks, Coach. Mark?
All right, Stacy, and Schnellenberger's team leading by 10 at the break. All things considered, a pretty good first half for the Owls. Now to John Saunders, Robert Smith, and Ed Cunningham for the Flomax halftime report. Guys?
All right, and thanks a lot. Those gentlemen will join me in just a moment's time. As we come back, we will look at some teams that are thrilled to be going to the bowl games they are. And we'll look at some teams that are not so thrilled. That's coming up next.
You're watching the Flomax halftime report.
Rusty Smith has 4 touchdown passes in the game. This one to Charles Pierre. As a result, 30-20 is the lead. John Saunders, Robert Smith, and Ed Cunningham. You know, when I watch the Academy Awards and you hear them interview the nominees and they say, I'm just happy to be nominated. They're lying, right? They're lying. But in this case, in bowl games, there are times when you are just happy to be in a bowl game.
Yeah, sometimes you are. And I look at Kansas, and myself included, there are a lot of people in the country that are saying, why is this team playing in a BCS bowl game when their only loss was to a Missouri team, and Missouri is not playing in a BCS bowl. So, you know, 11-1, great record, great job by Mark Mangino this year, but a weak schedule, and the one chance that they had to win a big game on a neutral field against a Missouri team, they lose it. So you got to think Missouri's a little bit upset. Kansas is pretty happy. Michigan State, look at them the last few years. I mean, you got your coach slapping himself around. You have them having these late season collapses. Mark D'Antonio comes in this year, does an excellent job, gets this team into a bowl game, playing against a pretty good national power in Boston College. Then you look at Ohio State. Come on now, you roll to 10-0. Then you get Illinois at home, a team that hasn't beaten a #1 team on the road since 1956. And what happens? Illinois and Ron's take it. They won 2 games last year, but Ohio State very happy now to be playing in the national championship game because, well, somebody else lost it at the end of the season. West Virginia loses it. LSU, of course, they're in the national title game as well. 2 losses on the season. They could be the only team to ever win the national title with 2 losses. Minnesota in 1960 won the national championship. They ended up with 2 losses, but they were awarded the national championship when they only had 1 loss. A lot of things fell into place for them. Ohio State, LSU, very happy to be playing in the national championship game. Now look at Illinois, and the ironic thing about this one, Illinois is going to be playing in the Rose Bowl. They beat Ohio State. If Ohio State had won out, they would have automatically been in the national championship game, but they beat Ohio State, which we thought was going to send Ohio State to the Rose Bowl, and then things worked out. Ohio State back in the national championship game. So Illinois, after a 2-win season last year, now playing for the Rose Bowl.
All right, in a season where you had 13 top 5 teams lose to non-ranked teams, you know there's plenty of teams out there who thought they were going to be in BCS games who are not.
Yeah, and you've got to think that those teams that thought they were going to be in BCS games but are not real happy with where they ended up. And we'll start with a couple of teams that Robert just talked about, playing against teams that like to be there. Boston College in the Champs Sports Bowl. Towards the end of the season, it looked like they were going to run away with the ACC title. Ran into a much-improved Florida State. Matt Ryan started throwing interceptions, it seemed, by the dozen at the end of the season. And this is a team that ended up kind of stumbling into the ACC championship game, lost to Virginia Tech. And I agree with Robert. I think that Michigan State goes to that Champs Sports Bowl, and they are focused and ready to go. Then you go to the Armed Forces Bowl, where Cal will be taking on Air Force. How bad is it for Cal? Well, their sterling record at the end of the season was 1-6 in their last 7 games. That's not exactly bowl-worthy, and they're going against an Air Force team. Of course, the slide started against Oregon State when Cal looked like they may go to #1. They're going against a pretty good Air Force team. Then you go to the game that I get to call. And I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. Not really sure about the Music City, with Florida State looking like they could lose as many as 6 defensive starters because of cheating on a music history exam, an online exam. We'll start to figure out who those guys are out, but you've got to think that Florida State may rather just stay home on New Year's Eve. Then, of course, the Cotton Bowl. I agree that Kansas should be very happy that they're in the Orange Bowl because Missouri is saying, why aren't we in the Orange Bowl? Well, they're not, and they're going to be playing against two very good running backs in the Cotton Bowl, Felix Jones and Darren McFadden. I think that Gary Pinkel will have this team ready to play, but you've got to wonder in the back of their minds, do they think they should be in Miami instead of Dallas? Now, this one is a little bit on a limb for guys who are not happy to be there, but remember what Mark Richt, the coach of Georgia, was doing at the end of the season. He was flat out lobbying for his team to go to the BCS national title game, and I wonder if his players were listening to that and thinking, you know what, maybe he's right. Maybe we shouldn't be in the Sugar Bowl. We should be playing 7 days later in New Orleans.
They needed a few things to happen that didn't happen. If you don't get your own championship game, it's hard to figure how you should be playing for the national championship. When we come back, we'll talk about Mike Pilati, who's staying on at Oregon as head coach after flirting with UCLA. This is the Flomax halftime report.
This halftime report brought to you by Flomax.
Las Vegas Bowl, BYU and UCLA.
Be really interesting to see how UCLA plays for Dwayne Walker. Are they going to pull the interim tag? I think a lot will be said this weekend about what Dwayne Walker does getting this team ready.
All right, for more on this game, let's join Bonnie Bernstein.
UCLA nearly blew a 20-point lead back in week 2, but still got the best of BYU in September. This time around, though, to play on the Vegas theme, the Bruins aren't exactly playing with a full deck of cards, particularly on offense. The big question mark, quarterback Ben Olsen, who's practiced just sparingly this week with a left knee injury. He will be a game-time decision. Should he not go, Osar Rashan will get his 3rd start of the year. Now, he was actually moved to receiver at the start of the season, but had to move back behind center because the position has just been so injury-riddled. Meanwhile, BYU's offense is looking to redeem itself from all the turnovers that led to the Cougars' demise back in week 2. Austin Collie told me, we are a much more mature team now, and it's time for a little payback.
Bonnie, thanks a lot. Now, here's a guy that UCLA talked to on Thursday about their vacant head coaching position, but Mike Pilati, after thinking things over, decided to stay at Oregon. He would like to get a raise, which he likely will get after talking to UCLA, around $1 million a year right now. But UCLA head coaching job is vacant because they let go of Carl Doral. How do you think this will play out?
Well, so many names have been thrown around. Of course, Rick Neuheisel and Bellotti came out today, which was a shocker, but kind of makes sense if they could get him. But I'm here to tell you they've got a guy right there right now that they just need to take the interim tag off. Dwayne Walker is doing an amazing job recruiting, despite the fact that they won't name him the head coach. I think they've got the man that they need in that position right now. And I think UCLA is going to play really well. A couple of questions at quarterback, but I think they got the guy they need right in the coach's office right now.
And I think the important thing as well is with Dwayne Walker, the recruits have some familiarity with him, and apparently they've got 18 commitments already, supposedly like a top 15 rated class up to this point. So you've got somebody already there in the locker room, not as much uncertainty. So those high school players, when they're making that transition, they want a guy that they're comfortable with. They don't necessarily want an outsider coming in, kind of an unknown just an unknown person. It's an unknown entity that's coming in there, so they haven't really built up that relationship. So this is a guy that they've been dealing with. I think they'd be comfortable with it as well.
You mentioned Rick Neuheisel, of course, who had success at Colorado and Washington, but didn't leave either program in very good shape and is now an assistant coach with Baltimore in the National Football League. Stick around. When we come back, we'll have some other news, including Barry Bonds making yet another appearance in court, this time pleading with the judge to let him hang on to his top 2 guys. Meanwhile, you got the Papa John Bowl with Cincinnati and Southern Miss.
Well, what a nice holiday for Brian Kelly. Remember this time last year he was coaching 2 teams in bowl games as he was leaving Central Michigan to take over Cincinnati, of course, going against Jeff Bauer, who the seniors are going to want to send Jeff Bauer out on a good note.
And then we also have the New Mexico Bowl tomorrow. New Mexico staying at home to face Nevada.
Yeah, the Battle of the Wolves here. Got the Wolf Pack against the Lobos. This will be the first meeting between these 2 teams since a scoreless tie in 1942. Watch for Colin Kaepernick operating that pistol offense at Chris Ault.
Did you look that up yourself or somebody gave you that?
Somebody gave me that. That's our excellent research department.
Barry Bonds was in court again today, basically asking a judge to hang on to his 2 top lawyers. The reason that prosecution is concerned is because those lawyers also represented potential witnesses against Barry Bonds. There was no ruling made today. Well, we got a Hankins throwing a touchdown pass to Russell here late as Memphis got on the board after a couple of field goals. We've got a 10-point high-scoring affair. Second half coming up.
Some of the indelible images of another edition of the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. FAU leading Memphis 30-20. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie. Stacey Dale's down in the field joining us in just a few moments. Season's greetings from all of us at ESPN to all of you at home. And Bob, Santa said that he was going to leave a lot of points under the tree for us in this game. And if there is a Santa, which I still believe in, well, I think you did.
I think it confirms, Mark, it doesn't matter if you're a spread offensive scheme like Memphis or a pro scheme like FAU. If you have the right players, either system can be effective. And we're just beginning this shootout.
Got a little feeling about Memphis perhaps being able to mount a challenge here in the second half. On the return, it's Michael Granberry who holds the school record in kickoff return yardage as we go downstairs to Stacey Dales.
Well, Mark, I just talked to Memphis coach Tommy West. I asked him what he was happy and not happy with in the first half. Offensively, very pleased. Defensively, he said we were just terrible. They figured that out. But here's the big thing, and Bob, you talked about this at the end of the first half. The kick coverage in the kick game was absolutely disastrous, and he brought that up. He said if that doesn't change, we're going to really struggle here in the second half. The kick game and the coverage, guys, has to be better for Memphis.
Well, Stacey, Tommy West really got on his troops on practice day on Wednesday. Well, they didn't have the right focus and effort. Tune them back up in subsequent meetings and practices. See where they go here in the second half. The pass incomplete. And let's take a look at tonight's Kay Jewelers storyline. The pertinent numbers and cogent facts for the game so far. The total yardage, Bob, pretty much even, and that's pretty much what we had expected coming into this game.
I think it's about what we expected. I mean, two really good offensive teams. The other thing, no turnovers in this football game, what we expected as well. Florida Atlantic, #1 in the country in turnover margin. Memphis, number 17. This game's going to come down to a big turnover by one of these defenses or a block kick, because both offenses right now cannot be stopped.
And here's Doss, who was instrumental on that last touchdown drive. And number 27, Chris Bartels, comes in, the starting strong safety, and put the wood on Doss.
Yeah, and Chris Bartels, a guy, Mark, has a labrum injury in his shoulder. Let's take a listen right here. Ooh, that's a pretty good pop. Now, this is a guy with a torn labrum. It's going to have surgery after the season.
Won the team's Bonehead Award for the toughest and hardest hits on the season out of Hollywood, Florida.
Goes to the same barber that the fullback William Rose goes to, or should we say doesn't go to the same barber.
Man, where'd you take that one out? Nice pass complete near midfield at the 49-yard line. Number 85, Brett Russell, working against Greg Joseph. And Russell picked up 15 with the catch near midfield.
And Mark, it all started again with a great block by Joseph Doss, the tailback right here. Watch him step up and block. Good block. I mean, put his face right in the middle of Franz Joseph. And then the tight end, Brett Russell. Big night tonight.
Gives them a first down and 10. Hankins with the fake. And the pass is going to be caught right inside the 40-yard line by number 14, Ernest Williams. Williams picks up 11 with that reception. It was his touchdown catch which punctuated a positive ending to the first half for Memphis.
One thing, Mark, this FAU defense, Memphis is going to run a lot of plays. They average close to 90 plays a game. No huddle scheme. I mean, your conditioning, you always worry about a little bit in a bowl game. Just watch for this FAU defense right now if they don't really start getting beaten down here in the second half.
Here's Doss. Oh, and a missed tackle, which would have resulted in a loss, and then Greg Joseph comes up to make the stop. But Franz Joseph had an opportunity to make a play in the backfield as we go down to Stacey.
Well, Mark and Bob, if you recall back to the first half, backup tailback for Memphis, T.J. Pitts, injured that left ankle. He was put in a walking boot. He left in the first half at the first quarter, the 5-minute mark. He has now returned on crutches with a cast, as you can clearly see. So an unfortunate situation for T.J. Pitts, but the work continues for Barnes and Doss, Mark.
Pitts, one half of a pretty productive running back tandem from Memphis with Doss. Hankins keeps it himself and shows a little bit of speed, at the very least mobility, to pick up the first down. Right around the 30-yard line, got 6 on the play.
You don't see Martin Hankins run that very much, but that's a spread play where they read the defensive end. Watch right here. He's going to read Council, who closes down inside. Then he gets a block out on the perimeter by Ernest Williams. Hankins not much of a runner, Mark, but he did lose about 15 pounds this year, but kind of took our guy right there by surprise, Jermaine Council.
Through 5 interceptions in the season opener against Ole Miss, a 3-point loss by Memphis, and you could have lost your starting quarterback at that early juncture of the season, but instead he showed a lot of resolve, being able to right his wrongs. And basically the coaching staff told him that, hey, listen, all you got to do is not force anything in. And tonight he has rewritten the record book at Memphis with passing yardage records, touchdowns, and completions.
Mark set all 3 of those records tonight, right?
Yep.
Will Hudgens in the game now at quarterback. Really the fullback deep snapper in at quarterback.
Hudgens 6'4" and about 230. He's the Tim Tebow model at quarterback for them.
Well, that's a pretty good statement. That's a pretty
good size anyway.
Because I'll tell you what, Tebow can flat throw it now. I mean, he gets a little bit of a bad rap about being kind of a linebacker at quarterback. I mean, Tebow can let it rip.
And the short yardage quarterback gets the first down for Memphis, keeping the drive alive at the 28-yard line for the Tigers.
You know, Mark, Memphis plays a 3rd quarterback, Matt Maloof, number 10, a freshman who actually comes in on 4th downs, sometimes the pooch punt guy, or they snap the ball on 4th down. So they use all 3 quarterbacks.
Hankins a senior. Hudgens is a junior. And Maloof, the freshman, as you mentioned. Because Hankins played a couple of years with Hal Mumme in Southeast Louisiana. Doss on the run. Keeps those legs churning. Picked up about 3 yards on the play. Greg Joseph makes the stop for FAU.
You talk about Southeast Louisiana, right up the road, just up in Hammond, Louisiana. So that's a great homecoming here for Martin Hankins. He had a chance to play Southern Miss in Hattiesburg, put 400 yards on them. Now he gets a chance to come back to the New Orleans area right here and put on a show.
Yeah, a whole bunch of friends and family members, about 100 strong at that game at Southern Miss. 2nd and 7. Hankins under some duress. Into the end zone and overshot his wide open receiver. Incomplete. Stephen Black, who, by the way, is the cousin of Terrell Owens. Yeah, that to you.
Or Jermaine Council had an open shot on Hankins in the backfield, but maybe losing that 15 pounds gave Hankins a little more footwork. In fact, I know it did, but yeah, he overthrew the receiver in the end zone right there, Stephen Black, for a touchdown.
3rd down and 7. This is the 10th play of the Tiger drive. A pass complete and a first down conversion at the 15-yard line. Devin Onaran.
I'll tell you, where did Ornorum come from at 6'7", 255, Mark? This guy hadn't had a whole lot of playing time this year. Talk about big receivers, though. You know, Tommy West, an old defensive guy, said he used to, after every game against a big-time opponent, say, where did they get all those tall guys that we have to defend? He said, I'm going to go out and recruit some of those big, tall guys.
Here's Doss between the tackles. Got about a yard on the play down to the 13-yard line. Yeah, you look at Doss, well, he's one of the diminutive ones, but Narum at 6'7", Russell at 6'3", Stephen Black, wide receiver, at 6'3", Maurice Jones, who's now out of the game with an injury, at 6'4", Carlos Singleton at 6'9", and Duke Calhoun, the team's leading receiver, at 6'4". And the tiny Carlton Robinson at 6'3". A heck of a pickup basketball game if getting started. 2nd and 9 on the quick post, and there's a flag. A wrestling match between Chris Bartels and Brett Russell.
Mark, anytime you get that safety lined up on really a wide receiver, Brent Russell, I know he's a tight end, but you can tell Bartels hasn't played a whole lot of man-to-man coverage out there. I mean,
you think, Bob?
Wow.
He looked like he was wrestling an alligator.
I mean, that old saying about keeping your hands inside, he had his hands about as far away from his body.
The pass is deemed to be uncatchable.
Oh, okay. So it's uncatchable.
He had a plan all the way, Mark. I mean, you don't give him enough credit. He realized that that ball was uncatchable.
So he figured to get a free one in, right?
And you can see what Tommy West wants holding, and that's a legitimate point right there. I mean, holding has nothing to do with uncatchable. Let's take a look at it again. Oh, man. Where does mugging fit into that category?
Wow. 3rd down and 9 for the Tigers. Hankins tipped up and incomplete, and this draws another flag intended for Ernest Williams. Well, Bartels was the perpetrator on the last one. We'll see who they get here.
Pass interference. Number 9 on the defense. The ball will be placed at the spot.
That one's against Acevedo.
Mark, that call was made by the back judge, Tom Herbert, right here from the Big Ten. You're going to see Tom Herbert come in here. Tom Herbert, 30 years as a back judge in the Big Ten. His dad, Ed Herbert, 20 years before him as an umpire. Wow. That's 50 years. This is his last game tonight, Tom Herbert. That's 50 years of the Herberts being in the Big Ten, and they have done just an unbelievable job, Mark, of educating young officials.
Doss, Bob, all the way down to the 1-yard line, got 4 on the play. With 10:10 to go, this is still the opening drive of the second half for the Tigers.
Mark,
second and goal coming up.
How about 50 years of officiating? And a big part of these guys that have been in it a long time, educating and teaching the young guys. He's going to throw the flag again. I mean, he's going to take his best shot here in his last game now. He's not going to save any of those calls.
Not going to go out with that thing in your pocket the entire time.
He'll sit around the house with that whistle in his mouth in retirement now. You know that. He's so used to that.
Habits die hard, huh?
5-yard penalty. Still 2nd down.
This one's going to go against the Tigers. They'll move it back to about the 7 or 6-yard line.
Mark, so important that Memphis gets touchdowns and not field goals, because obviously they're behind by 10. But just as importantly, they hadn't stopped FAU all night, so you have to get touchdowns.
14th play of the Tiger drive coming up. A trips right formation. See if we get a little jump ball situation with those tall receivers. On a little screen, it's complete. Just touchdown, Singleton. It was tipped at the line of scrimmage by Michael Hancock, right into the waiting and yawning arms of Carlos Singleton. His 11th touchdown catch of the season, the 14th of his career.
And very seldom you see a 6'9" guy, Mark, again on these little jailbreak screens. The ball's tipped. All he has to do is stretch out. The knee was down, but he stretched it into the end zone right there. But you're right. I mean, I thought it was going to be fade, but they brought the little inside jailbreak screen.
And now the Tigers just a field goal away from tying this game. And wow, what a change in the climate here.
You did write that missed extra point down when I told you.
Yeah, I think it was about 3 minutes.
FAU, did you? Okay.
You told me. Got to do what the coach says. Tigers within 3 when we come back. Saw a little bit more blue, Memphis blue, on Bourbon Street a little bit last night. and even earlier this evening, as opposed to the FAU colors. But right now, the Owls lead where it counts on the scoreboard. Rusty Smith completes a rope to Gent, completed the 47-yard line. Take a look at the distribution of passes in the game so far.
Hey, Mark, it's all good. I mean, the only place he has not thrown the football is right down the middle of the field, deep. Everywhere else he has money. Most impressive right here. 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And I mean, forget about dropping that ball down on the release. You're just nitpicking because this guy right here can sling it.
I want to get back to a point on that in just a moment. Here's the toss to Rose. Rose brought down for about a gain of 1. But why do you think he hasn't thrown it down the middle? Is that a result of the coverage or by design, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think probably, Mark, it is a result of the coverage because so much of their passing game is dictated on what coverage the defense ends up in and then throwing it to the weakness.
Gary Nord, the offensive coordinator, says of Smith that, quote, he sees the field as well as any quarterback that I've ever coached.
And then, Mark, the other thing, he has a strong enough arm to throw the ball to the outside. And he can throw it from one hash to the other.
3-point lead. Smith fires another dart complete to Charles Pierre as we go to John Saunders in the studio for SportsCenter 30 at 30 update. John?
Jonesy, thanks a lot. Again, Barry Bonds went before a judge today because he wants to keep his top 2 attorneys, despite the fact the prosecutors are concerned there's a conflict of interest because they once represented potential witnesses against him. And UCLA is still looking for a head coach. Thursday, they talked to Mike Bellotti of Oregon, but Friday, he decided to stay home. Mark, back to you.
All right, John. Yeah, we were hearing that Rick Neuheisel was in the mix at UCLA a little bit there. 7:40 to go here in the third quarter. This is the Owls' first possession of the period. The pass complete to William Rose, again about 2 yards short of the first down. Brought down by Josh Weaver on the play. He got 5.
Mark, let me tell you how big that stop was. Memphis last in the country in third down defense. They get off the field on third down. Plus, Memphis has run 58 plays in this game. FAU only 38. So this FAU defense, Mark, has been on the football field a long time, and they're about to come back out there.
Punting now for FAU is Mickey Grudy. Grudy standing in his own 42. And that one will bounce into the end zone. 44 yards in all, but the net just 24 as it comes out to the 20-yard line. And Memphis now, who looked impressive on their last possession, with Hankins leading the way with an opportunity to maybe take the lead on this drive. Back with more in a minute. Fans in blue ready to seize the moment here as the Memphis Tigers trail by just 3. They've taken the momentum back. Hankins with the screen pass complete. Number 4, Greg Hines, and Hines close to a first down at the 30. Stopped up there by France Joseph.
Mark, I keep talking about total amount of plays. Memphis a huge advantage with 18 more plays in this football game. Keep in mind this FAU defense, not a lot of depth. 2 starting defensive linemen out for the year, injured early. I look for Memphis to keep wearing this FAU defense down.
Certainly had a long enough opportunity on that first possession of the third quarter to do that. Doss with the carry for the first down.
Mark, it's just something came to my mind. You talked about that HD hit just a moment ago.
Yeah.
I read we're in the state of Hawaii right now. It's unbelievable the amount of HD TVs. They can't find HD TVs to sell because of the Hawaii Rainbows playing in the Sugar Bowl.
Wow.
And that's going to be a great story, Hawaii coming. They're coming in here with 15,000 fans to play Georgia right here in this building in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, that's going to be an intriguing matchup.
Certainly will be, Bob. That pass complete. Ernest Williams, and you look at the Louisiana Superdome here over the next, week and a half. The 3 football games that'll be played here, the college football games, will be really a spectacle.
Can you imagine
great place to be
when the Ohio State Buckeyes, who travel as well and have as fine of fans as any in college football, lock horns with LSU in this city in the national championship? That's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere. They will sell some beverages on Bourbon Street.
But I don't know if you can tell the difference in the French Quarter because it's always kind of packed.
Yeah, but it will be unbelievable with Buckeye fans in it.
Certainly will be. That's Doss again running between the tackles, stopped up short of the first down by about a yard. 5:34 to go here in the third quarter of play. Memphis trailing by 3 points. Doss was 76 yards rushing on 18 carries on the night. Tommy West really did a great job in pressing the right buttons to get his team back on track. We told you at the top of the show they started off 2-4 and then rallied, finishing 5-6 to become bowl eligible. Finished tied for second in their division in the Conference USA. Maloof now in at quarterback for the Tigers. He's the freshman, and he runs it, picking up the first down across the 45. They're going to spot it just beyond that. So now we've seen all three quarterbacks for the Tigers, and Maloof on his lone play so far comes up limping.
I can't say that I'm a huge fan, Mark, of using three different quarterbacks. Like it's just bringing a guy off the bench like that who's been standing over there for about 4 hours now on a critical third down. I mean, I guess it's a good call, but sometimes you can outsmart yourself. I mean, I think Hutchins or even Hankins could probably have done the same thing right there, don't you?
Yeah. It's a bowl game, and I guess coaches like to try different things. Doss picked up a couple, but there's a flag thrown near the end of that play. If you're just joining us, TJ Pitts was injured earlier and is done for the night. He's the backup tailback to Doss.
Holding. Number 65 on the offense. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
A penalty against Holloway.
Boy, Mark, that penalty really hurts because Memphis starting to establish that ground game a little bit. Now, obviously, on first down and 20, you can forget about the run game.
This FAU defense has been very opportunistic throughout the course of the season. #1 in the nation in turnover margin as a team. But tonight, no takeaways. Polo on one corner, Small on the other between them. Some 12 interceptions, but none tonight. They won't get one here. Doss out of the backfield. Stopped up by Joseph. Joseph with a little help from Andre Clark on the play.
Mark, that was a great effort play by Franz Joseph. First team all Sun Belt linebacker. You mentioned earlier, transferred from Boston College.
Says his role model actually was Matthias Kiwanuka, now with the New York Giants in the NFL, Bob. Learned to really watch the way that Kiwanuka did things and admired him because he always got things done. Was a task-oriented type of player, and this type of philosophy Joseph has tried to adapt himself. 2nd and 20 for Hankins. Incomplete, jarred loose nicely by Acevedo. It was intended for Duke Calhoun. There's the secondary coming up with a play for FAU.
Yeah, and Acevedo, a guy that missed 05, Mark, with an ankle injury, comes up with a play right there. Acevedo's had 5 interceptions on the year. This FAU team with 18 interceptions last year, 19 this year, Mark, which is really an unbelievable number.
Polo was 7, led the nation for most of the year.
Again, that holding penalty on Memphis on first down.
3rd and 20 right now. They set up a little screen to Doss. A nice block on Sincere, and Doss brought down short of the first down to the 44-yard line, so the Tigers will have to punt. Albeit Doss got 7 yards, and the player shaken up down there. It's number 96, Mertlis. He's all right.
Mark, we talk about what these quarterbacks do for Memphis. Here's Big Will Hudgens, the deep snapper. He's the deep snapper on punts. They say he just snaps it too hard to be the deep snapper on short kicks. They use a true freshman, Keenan Bratcher, for that. This guy is a rocket snapping this football now, Will Hudgens. Would you tell me he had a mohawk?
Yeah, he's got a big M carved in the back of his dome. He wins the haircut contest easily.
Watch the velocity on this snap now.
Sutherland, the punter, on the play. And it's blocked! That's the 3rd block of the season. And FAU catches a break at the 18-yard line. Wilfred Rivera got in there to block it.
Mark, Wilfred Rivero lines up at the very top, and just a poor effort right there by the right up back from Memphis. That was an easy opportunity to block him. Really just a meltdown right there for Memphis, and that's Memphis's third block punt they've given up this season, Mark.
Now we'll see if the Owls can take advantage of it. 1st and 10 in great field position in the red zone at the 19. Smith working out of the shotgun. Hands it off to the fullback, William Rose, who got a couple of yards.
Let's go back and look at this punt. Right up here at the top, he is going to come from the outside. Now, if I stop this right here, there is no way, if he gets any kind of block at all, that punt should be blocked. That's just a poor effort right there. And I said earlier, this game was going to come down to a turnover or a big mistake in the kicking game, because both offenses have been up and down the field. There's your big mistake by Memphis.
There you go. Facts working out of the eye. Smith into the end zone. Oh. Touchdown, what a catch. Harmon. Two plays after the block punt, the Owls score.
Boy, Mark, block punt leads to a touchdown. Watch Rusty Smith, first of all, when he releases this football. This is a pretty athletic move right here. Throws off his back foot and just makes a great throw to the outside. Alton Starr, the safety, could not cover Jason Harmon to the corner of the end zone.
Extra point good, and the lead is back to 10. A little more breathing room for the Owls.
It all started, Mark, right here with just an inexcusable block punt.
Talk about a free pass, and then a nice touch pass to Harmon. X marks the spot for the Owls. Welcome back, everyone, to the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. 37-27, FAU leading in its first ever bowl appearance. That's Wilfred Rivera right there on the left, who made the big play a few moments ago. A block punt, which 2 plays later led to the touchdown pass from Rusty Smith to Jason Harmon. And for Smith, it was his 5th touchdown pass of the game. That ties a career high. Kick bobbled back at the 5-yard line by Granberry. And Granberry finally takes it out to the 11. And let's go to Brent Musburger.
How about the Illini, Mark?
Hey, Bob, I was just thinking, you know, everybody talks about USC. They deserve everything and all the accolades that they get. But what about the year? Talk about turnarounds. The year that Ron Zook had at Illinois. Really? To be able to come from where they came from a season ago.
No question. And I think that game is going to be a much better game than what people think. You know, Illinois taking that spread offense out there, playing against the Trojans. Have an injured
player down on their field. Yeah, that's Edward Bradwell, 6'1", 200-pound sophomore out of Dillard High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Mark, as we mentioned, we've spent some time with Howard Schnellenberger the last couple of days, and just how rewarding this has to be. That's his strength coach right there.
Yeah. He told us a great story, Bob, about the fact that early in the program's inception,
wait a second,
Coach Schnellenberger, you know, he got to make sure that he's all dressed up and buttoned up in all phases of the game. But he told us about how he'd go into the school cafeteria, the dining hall, and had a little stump that he would step up on and whistle like that from time to time and announce to everybody, hey, folks, I'm your new football coach. Let's get a little excitement going. And they'd kind of look at him and then get back to their discussions and their conversations.
Yeah, Mark, he said the first times he went in there, and you can imagine, FAU, a commuter school, it's only about 45 years old, never has played football. He walks in, he's standing on a stump that he's painted in FAU colors. Half those kids, probably more, didn't even know FAU had colors. He's standing on a stump whistling in the cafeteria saying, I'm your new football coach. I mean, he couldn't even get him to stop eating to pay attention to him.
Well, they've certainly caught a little bit of the Owl fever. There's a look at the profile of the school, the enrollment, about 26,000 in all.
Mark, they say merchandise sales, I'm talking about hats and shirts, up 63% from last year.
I was
at
in
FAU.
I was in the elevator with a couple of Owl fans coming down a little bit earlier today, and they were complaining that they couldn't get their hands on any when they tried to order online. So that tells you about something about the popularity.
Well, what happens, I've seen you do your bargaining. You walked away with a couple free FAU t-shirts. Now, I guarantee you find a way.
The best nation in the world is a donation, Bob Davey. That pass incomplete. Intended for Carlos Singleton. Hankins was under a little bit of heat and ended up on his wallet that time. And now he comes up limping.
And Mark, he got hit in the back of the legs right as he releases this football right here. Right there. Kind of gets bent back. Yeah, I mean, pretty significantly gets bent back.
He got twisted up with 1:26 to go in the third quarter. Well, we've seen Hudgens and Maloof already today. Maloof, the freshman right there. Hudgens, the 6'4" 235-pound junior. Hudgens actually started a couple of games earlier this season when Hankins missed 2 games because of a hip injury. So Hudgens certainly feels comfortable enough to go in there and do well. In fact, he was 30 of 45 passing for 346 yards earlier this year in that game against Marshall. A couple of touchdown passes in that game, and boy, that's not a good sign for Tiger fans and supporters. Hankins coming off the field. And they had just really started to get the offense cranked up a little bit, Bob, before that blocked punt. Their first drive of the third quarter was pretty impressive in scoring.
Well, and the thing that helps, though, Mark, obviously that's a devastating blow right there. But as you mentioned, Hudgens has played a lot of football. He's already played in this game a lot tonight. So you're not bringing a guy completely off the bench in an unknown situation. I mean, they have a good backup quarterback in Will Hudgens.
You have to feel awful, though, for Martin Hankins there coming off the field, a 6'2" senior. This is his last game in a Tiger uniform. And this is not the way that you want to go out. Came into this contest with 22 touchdown passes on the season. Second down and 10. Hudgens hands it off to Doss. Doss with a nice move to get to the edge and gets the first down. Michael Doss showing the elusiveness and the ability to make people miss.
Mark, you go back to that block punt that Memphis really gave to FAU. Now they're 10 points down. They probably feel like they have to throw the football a little bit more than if they were only 3 points down. But you do feel like they can run the football with Doss right now in this game.
Can you afford to run and chew up as much clock as you would?
I think you can. I mean, particularly you're this no-huddle spread. A lot of time obviously left in this football game. Particularly with your backup quarterback in the game, I think it helps right now. Screens and also run the football a little bit.
There's a little receiver screen, but blown up immediately. Played well in the secondary by Corey Small, number 26, and a flag thrown now as Singleton was brought down immediately. That flag coming well after the whistle, Bob.
Yeah, Mark, that was a great play by Corey Small. We've mentioned all night these big, tall, strong Memphis receivers, undersized FAU corners, but Corey Small that time stepped up and made a great play. Not a great effort out there in the open field of blocking. Let's see if we can see what this penalty is late right here.
After the play, delay of game on the offense. It's a dead ball foul, 5-yard penalty, second out.
Interesting, Mark.
Delay of game.
Did he spike the football or? But Stephen Black that time out in the open field, not a great effort, number 2, blocking against Corey Small.
They're saying that he spiked the ball.
There it is right there. Fortunate that's all it was.
No, I don't see the harm in that. I mean, that's just spontaneous emotion. It's a penalty by the letter of the rule. Under a minute to play. Hudgens in a quarterback for Hankins. Hankins was injured a couple of plays ago. And Hudgens brought down There's a look at Hankins on the sidelines. He doesn't appear to be close to coming back anytime soon by that picture on your screen. 43 seconds to go in the third quarter. Looks like it's Hudgens' game at this point anyway.
This FAU defense, they're 107th in the nation in sacks. So they're not a team that's a great rushing the passer defensive line. But you can see Hudgens not real mobile back there, Mark. A real big, strong guy.
3rd and 11 coming up. Hudgens fires. Incomplete. And it's 4th down coming up. Closest receiver there was Stephen Black.
Now probably the worst phase of Memphis's football team, their punt unit back on the field.
Yeah, the last punt was blocked by Memphis. And 2 plays later, it turned into an FAU touchdown.
And interesting, Hudgens not the deep snapper. They've gone to the true freshman Keenan Bratcher, number 52, as the snapper now that Hudgens is the quarterback.
See if the Tigers can remedy their ills of the last block punt. Sutherland in once again to punt, standing on his own 9-yard line. They came dangerously close, and a flag is thrown as they ran into Sutherland, the punter. Polo fields it cleanly at the 37-yard line. There's a flag down on the play. Austin Jensen ran into the punter.
Mark, I think that's going to be a 5-yard penalty right there. Running into, I think that's going to be a 5-yard penalty, which
37 on the defense. That 5-yard penalty is declined. First down.
Yeah, if you're Memphis, you don't want to punt the ball again with the woes you've had.
29 seconds to go now in the third quarter, and FAU will have the football at its own 37-yard line. And the look on the countenance of quarterback Martin Hankins says it all right now. A look of despair.
You know, Mark, all the momentum with Memphis, then the punt block and the injury to your quarterback Martin Hankins, and now you get a feeling like FAU can put the nail in the coffin right now by getting the football down the field.
They've had fewer offensive plays, Bob, in this game, but more points where it counts on the scoreboard, leading by 10. Play fake by Rusty Smith. Pass complete to Harmon again. And Harmon gives you about 6 yards after the catch as well.
Mark, that was a great route by Hankins, the tight end. Really looks like a wide receiver. I mean, he's going to go down the field right here. He's going to give a little outside move and then break it back inside. Watch this route right here. Little outside shake and then bends it back inside. Memphis in zone coverage, and I mean, just a huge hole in that zone.
One of the few times Smith has thrown it in the middle of the field, goes up top here, and it's picked off at the 7-yard line. Mathis still on his feet. And Mathis all the way out to the 43 for the Tigers. A pretty good way to punctuate the third period if you're a Tiger supporter. That's the 3rd interception of the season for Mathis.
Mark, they had the respirator out, Memphis. I mean, they needed that play right there. And Mariko Mathis, little vertical right there.
A poorly thrown ball by Rusty Smith, giving hope to the Tigers when we start the fourth quarter on the other side. Welcome back, everyone, for the fourth quarter of the Arnell Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Florida Atlantic leading Memphis by 10 points, but the Tigers with an interception on the final play of the third period and trying to take a little of that momentum here into the fourth. Will Hudgens is the quarterback right now after the injury to their starter, Martin Hankins. And Hudgens scrambling that time for a couple of yards. There's a look at Hankins being attended to on the sidelines by the team's trainers and medical staff, and Stacey Dales has more.
Yeah, Mark, I've been down here following Hankins, and they've iced his knee thoroughly at this point. It's the right knee that he's injured. They've put him on some crutches, and guys, when he's walked around on the sideline, with the help of others, it's been very ginger. His approach has been very delicate on that right leg. And I've injured my ACL before, guys. I'm not speculating, but he cannot put pressure on that right leg, Mark. Not a good situation.
Yeah, doesn't look favorable, Stacy, in terms of him being able to come back at this point. That pass incomplete. Franz Joseph breaking it up. It was intended for Brett Russell.
Mark, you talk about the quarterbacks staying healthy. I really think if Dennis Dixon stays healthy at Oregon, I think Oregon is playing in the national championship. And I think Dennis Dixon has a great opportunity to win the Heisman Trophy. When he went down,
might have had one this year too. Yeah.
No question. What I'm saying. I mean, there's no question. I mean, Dennis Dixon, when he went down against Arizona, they had about 150 yards in the first quarter against Arizona in Tucson that night. That's how significant that injury was.
Third down and 8. A little pressure coming on Hutchins. And he's sacked back at the 41-yard line. Doesn't really look comfortable back there right now, Bob, in the passing game. Joseph making the sack for FAU.
Mark, he seems a little late making a decision. I mean, that was actually really good pass protection right there. It was like Hutchins just kind of froze. And so much of being a great quarterback, Mark, is vision. Just being able to see. And it looks to me like Hutchins is a little slow reacting to things.
Let's look at Polo. Fabius Polo standing at his own 19-yard line for FAU. Sutherland punting. He's had one blocked.
And they've come with a lot of pressure, Mark, from the outside right here, FAU.
High snap. There's a flag down on the play. It bounces at the 20 and takes a very auspicious bounce for the Tigers all the way down to the 4-yard line, where it'll be down. But let's see if it stands because of the flag. If it does, it's a 54-yard punt.
Mark, that's going to be offsides on FAU. Memphis obviously going to decline that penalty. Set up great field position for their defense right here.
A defense, though, Bob, that has had its problems stopping the FAU offense so far.
Offside on the defense. Penalty is declined. First down.
That one interception by Rusty Smith aside.
Mark, this is a key possession right now in this football game because Memphis a great opportunity defensively right now in the field position battle. Because all of a sudden now Memphis's offense with Hutchins at quarterback doesn't really look capable of going a long distance to score. So they have to set up great field position.
Boy, what a day, Bob, for Rusty Smith, quarterback for FAU. And there's Hutchins with that unique, unconventional hairstyle.
That doesn't look like a quarterback now, does it?
But there's a nice M on the back. I mean, that took a little bit of time. I'm not sure what the barber got, but he should have gotten life. First down and 10. A handoff to Pierre. And Charles Pierre couldn't get to the edge, but he's brought down at the 7-yard line. Talked about the 5 touchdown passes by Rusty Smith so far today. Impressive, Bob, in the fact that he's thrown those 5 passes to 5 different receivers. Good balance on that receiving core. And it was Memphis's receiving core that we kind of talked a little bit more about coming into this game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Memphis had about 5 receivers over 30 catches coming into this football game.
Second down and 8 coming up. Smith. Harmon makes the catch. And Harmon gives them a little breathing room with a first down at the 35-yard line. He was working against Mathis, and he picked up 27 on the play.
Yeah, Mark, again, this is a tight end by name, but again, he's going to come down and run that little corner route. That's the tight end lined up out there at wide receiver. Watch this move right here. Breaks it to the inside, then back outside, beats Larico Mathis, the corner. So that's your tight end working against a corner.
6 catches, Bob, today for 92 yards.
Forget about that field position, Mark.
Yeah, not an issue.
Switched field position.
Not an issue anymore. Pierre moving the pile all the way near the 45-yard line, about a yard short of the first down. If you just joined us, FAU really one of the more remarkable stories in college football this year. Their program came to being in 1998 when the then school president came to the head coach Howard Schnellenberger and said, "Coach, we think it's time for a football team." Schnellenberger was actually an outside observer, wasn't even the head coach at the time. He became the head coach, and they started playing just 2 years after that. They practiced for 2 years. They run by Pierre between the tackles and didn't have many facilities at the time. They got out recruiting and tried to get guys to come to FAU. And they've slowly built it up. Started off in what used to be called 1AA. And then since now have completed their third full season of 1A.
Yeah, Mark, he calls it a natural birth. He said when you go some other place and take over a job, it's like an adoption because that baby's already grown a little bit, but he calls his a natural birth. I mean, he started it flat from scratch now.
Smith completes it this time to Bonner. Bonner inside the 40 at the 38 and another first down. And he is recruiting, Schnellenberger is, from a very fertile recruiting grounds down there in the state of Florida. You look at the Florida area, there are close to some 400 high school players that get Division I scholarships. And Bob, they can't all go to Florida State, Florida, and the University of Miami.
First of all, he has 10 starters coming back. I mean, obviously all his players are going to come from Florida. He doesn't need to go anywhere else. He has 10 starters back on offense. Basically the entire football team back. Next year they play Texas and Michigan State.
Here's Pierre between the tackles, brought down after a gain of about 2. And hey, you talk about Michigan State being on the schedule. FAU defeated a Big Ten school this year when they beat the University of Minnesota down in Miami.
But how about our guy Pierre now? You talk about a thick guy. You notice right there, he only ties up about 3 of his laces because look how thick his calves are, but his feet are fat. So they told me yesterday there's no way he can tie those shoes up. He's about 5'8", 215, just a bowling ball.
It's Rose who gets a little downhill running going, but you go back to those ankles and the look of, I want to see those ankles again, because those aren't what you call ankles, those are cankles.
Yeah.
Those are half calves, half ankles. I mean, they just kind of blend into the next part of his body.
Well, you're going to see this. You're going to see those cankles in law school now, because this guy wants to be a lawyer and go on to law school.
So many great stories on the field for FAU this season. 12 seniors, though, playing their final their final game, and total yardage smack even. Pierre will be back next year. He's just a sophomore. He gets the call again. Well, the coach wanted him to start making people miss. Couldn't make anybody miss that time. He probably lost a couple yards with 10:25 to go here in the fourth quarter of play.
Mark, that was an excellent tackle, by Ford, number 18, the field corner that time. Lakeitharon Ford, they call him Vito. That was a big play right there.
4th and 3 coming up, and they're going to try and attempt a field goal. This one's going to be just shy of 50 yards out. Worley Leroy will kick this one, but there's going to be a timeout down to the field first.
And Mark, I'm not sure Howard may not reconsider it right here and go for it on 4th down. I think he maybe after deeper thought. That's a look of contemplation right there, Mark. I think he's contemplating going for it.
Wily old Fox going to think it over, and we'll be back. 9:57 to go in the fourth quarter. FAU is going to go for it here on 4th down and about 3 to go.
Mark, I'm going to go out on a limb. Play action pass with this tight end running a crossing route right here. Number 88, Harmon, on 4th down and 4.
Harmon's already got passes for over 90 yards. Smith completes it, and it's a first down at the 25-yard line to Lester Jean.
Boy.
Got 6 on the play, just enough.
That's a little bit too easy right there. I mean, Lester Jean, the true freshman wide receiver, 6'3", 180, just goes down and runs a stop route in front of the corner. That was too easy.
Jean has played in every game this year, and you look at this FAU roster, and there's a lot of freshmen and sophomores playing important parts on this team. None more important than the quarterback on offense, Smith, who's a sophomore. This pass complete again. This is Jean, made a nice move, and another one. shaken big time. Lester Jean still loose and down to the 4. A 21-yard pickup.
Yeah, Mark, it all started. The Ivory Edgecombe, number 32, the running back who's lined up at wide receiver, gets a block. Watch the first block. Downfield by Edgecombe right there. And now the athletic move by the freshman wide receiver, Lester Jean.
And Rusty Smith with that completion, Bob, has set a New Orleans Bowl, Arnell Carriers New Orleans Bowl record with 331 yards passing. They line up out of the iron, 1st and goal. Edgecombe. Touchdown, Owls.
Mark, they do a great job of giving you multiple formations with the same personnel on the field. And what an impressive drive right there by FAU. Think about it. That drive started on about the 4-yard line after that punt by Memphis.
Certainly did. Good point. And with 9:12 to go, they can make this a 17-point game with the extra point from Leroy. Well, the fans that have made the trip from Boca Raton, Florida, making their collective voices heard right now. They were outnumbered in the French Quarter earlier today, but might be a different story after the game tonight. Look at the French Quarter, downtown New Orleans, Bourbon Street. Edgecombe not really just spinning wheels.
It ain't over yet.
He's had a good night, Mark.
Yeah.
Get back on that field. Do it again.
Looking forward to doing it again.
I mean, how about 7 years from now? I mean, FAU only 7 years playing football. What about 7 years from now, Mark?
The way that the program has flourished in such a short period of time, the sky's the limit. On the kickoff return, this is Granberry, who this year set a school record for kickoff return yardage. Brought down just over the 40-yard line. Flag down on the play.
Memphis not real sharp tonight, Mark. I mean, they've had some opportunities to climb back in it, but they just have been a mistake penalty team.
And the thing that really cost them, here's the call first.
Illegal block in the back. Number 39 on the return team. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. First down.
There's another mistake, Bob. Just when it seemed like the momentum was going to swing in their favor, the blocked punt, which resulted in a touchdown for FAU a couple of plays later. As for the quarterbacking situation right now, Hankins, who's not in the game anymore, was moving the ball and passing the ball pretty well. They'd gotten it within 3 points, and then he was injured on that play. And he hasn't been back in the ball game since. Since that time, Will Hudgens has taken over. And he fires another incompletion. Couldn't connect with Duke Calhoun. The two of them weren't on the same frequency there.
Yeah, Mark, I mean, there's no question. And now just get back in the huddle. Let's run the next play. But you can see right now, and Tommy West talked about the timing of this football team was not where it needed to be. And it really highlights that point now, Mark, with the backup quarterback in the game.
Hudgens has faced a lot of adversity during his time at Memphis. Actually redshirted the 2004 season while rehabbing his knee. Tore his knee up playing basketball, dunking a basketball in his senior year in high school. That time he handed it off to Doss. And Doss maybe got 2 on the play. Brought down by Jermaine Council. Doss, meanwhile, has just gone over 1,000 yards rushing this season. A young man who expectations were sky high for at the start of the season and was injured early. But his fan club still showing up. Got nicked up.
Mark, really hard to call plays right here. I mean, you just have no confidence that your quarterback can accurately deliver the ball down the field.
Hudgens throws behind his receiver. That was almost picked off. I mean, Clark was thinking he should have had 6. You can gauge that by his reaction.
And Hudgens really struggling. I mean, you could see right there, just held onto that football too long and tried to aim it.
And there's Hankins. He's done. It would be a miracle at this point with his pads off and ice on that leg, knee area, if he came back. Sutherland in the punt. Polo standing in his own 37-yard line.
FAU, if they want, Mark, can put a lot of pressure on this punt. They've done it all night.
I'll tell you the difference between the fans right now and how exuberant the FAU fans are. They've been standing on their feet for the entire second half. This is Polo. And Polo brought down in good field position for the Owls at the 46-yard line. What a story this year in Boca Raton.
They're smelling it, Mark. They're smelling it.
Under the lights of the Louisiana Superdome, FAU leading Memphis by 17 points with 8:09 to go here in the fourth quarter of play. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie. Stacey Dale's down in the field, and FAU continues to author a wonderful story, a compelling story in college football. That was Manly on the carry. A team that's only been playing college football for 7 years. Made it to a bowl game faster than any other program in NCAA history. Is on the verge, just 7:51 away from its first ever bowl victory.
And something Howard did, they brought 113 players to this game. Sunbelt, you only travel with 66. They could have saved money, Mark, and left some guys at home. But Howard said that'll kill your program, leaving guys at home in a bowl game. Brought all 113 in.
I think they were all in the lobby prior to the game, and Harmon got rocked at the 47-yard line. And Harmon close to approaching 100 yards receiving in the game. Brown made the hit. And that pocket square, that thing hasn't moved yet. He's got it all down.
Mark, what a statement, though. I mean, when he beat Minnesota, that got a lot of people's attention. When he beat Troy, that got a lot more people's attention. They were 15-point underdogs in that game against Troy. But beating Memphis as convincingly as they're doing right now, Mark, he's going to take recruiting to a whole new level.
We're hoping for a spin-off effect after the benefits of a potential win here. That pass broken up. Incomplete at the 20-yard line. Jake Kasser broke it up. Some of the oldest coaches in college football. Joe Paterno with his 81st birthday today. 81 years young. Bobby Bowden at 78, and then Schnellenberger and Dick Tomey. Who says, Bob Davie, it's a young man's game? Come on now.
I think something got Howard's attention over here. He's the only one not looking at us. But Howard's going to do this several more years, Mark. You talked about that new stadium on campus. You know he's going to want to see that come to fruition in 2010.
Great jobs at the University of Miami, where he won their first national championship and put Louisville's program on the map, and he was really pivotal in getting that stadium built, Papa John Stadium in Louisville, and now looking to do the same in Boca Raton, Florida, at Florida Atlantic University, FAU. 6:36 to go in the ball game. 1st and 10 now for Memphis.
And talk about building a program just from the floor up. A lot easier to do that in South Florida, Mark, than in some other places.
Could it work anywhere else?
Not with the same ease that it does in South Florida. There's just not the number of athletes.
Maloof now in the ball game. Maloof, the freshman quarterback. That's his second carry, and the second time that he's been hit pretty hard, Bobby. Took a lick on the first carry of the ball game and came up limping.
Yeah, Maloof, 36 carries, Mark, on the season for 155 yards. He is really a runner. And right now, they don't need a whole lot of runs down 17. But Hutchins just struggling so much that I think he had to make the change.
At this point, it would do no harm to get the freshman some reps. Little live action, and that pass incomplete. Dropped by Ernest Williams, and what a time it is for FAU. And Stacey Dale's with one of their guests.
Yeah, Mark, I'm joined by FAU's athletic director, Craig Angelis. And Craig, I just stood here and asked you, what is going through your mind right now? The game's not over. There's 6 minutes left, but what is going through your mind right now?
Well, it's a culmination of a great year. We had a lot of firsts. We beat Minnesota as our first Big Ten victory. We had our first sellout crowd this year. We got our stadium approved. We won the Sun Belt Conference and now won a bowl game. So it's a year of a lot of firsts. It's been a great year.
Craig, it's been 7 years for you guys as a Division 1A program, Division 1 program, Division 1A for 3 years. What's been the turning point for you throughout the 7 years?
Well, the momentum and perception of our program will continue to increase. And as the perception increases, the awareness increases, people get attracted to the program, get involved in a lot of different ways, and so it's kind of an upward spiral effect, as Howard likes to call it, and you can really see it taking effect and really coming to a head tonight.
What does a bowl game do for your school financially?
Well, the financial payoff probably isn't as great as just the real awareness that's been created in South Florida. I mean, the buzz down there among all of our media and whatnot has been fantastic.
Well, thanks a lot. Congratulations on your success thus far, and continued success in the future, Craig.
All right, Stacey, you know, he has, Coach Schnellenberger has showed tireless, boundless energy in getting out on the front line as the punt bounces all the way down to the 15-yard line, in being able to get out on the front line and get beneficiaries, get donations to the program. And if you think because he's 73 years old and he lacks energy, that picture, that snapshot on the sideline dictates otherwise.
Yeah, he wanted Polo to catch that punt now.
Right.
He didn't want to see it roll on this Superdome turf.
Hey, Capital One Bowl Week, featuring over 20 bowl games in 12 days on the family of ESPN networks, continues. UCLA Bruins taking on BYU in the Pioneer Las Vegas Bowl. Part of Capital One Bowl Week on ESPN Saturday night at 8 Eastern time. BYU coming into the game ranked number 17, and UCLA still looking for a new head coach. UCLA 6-6 on the season. They actually defeated BYU earlier this year. And now Sean Clayton in the ball game for FAU.
You know, you go back to Stacy talking to the athletic director from FAU on the sideline, Mark. It just proves that this can serve as a model. Really can serve as a model for other universities around the country that like to start football. Proves that if you have the right administration. That's Beverly Schnellenberger right there, Mark. We said married 48 years to Howard. Was in the team picture yesterday when we walked in.
Every bit a part of the team's success throughout the years. That's Manley on the carry. And, you know, I talked earlier, Bob, about the fact that Coach Schnellenberger is still out there wooing people to write some checks and get donations, get gifts, as they like to call them. And in that area, Boca Raton, the median income in that immediate area, not bad when you look at maybe right around $80,000 per year. So he's hitting up some pretty big people.
Not your stereotypical college football town, no. Boca Raton, right?
No. We got a great mall up there. 3rd down and 4. Native of Broward County, I can attest to that. This is Clayton showing off his wheels out near the 30-yard line.
And Mark, it's probably the most fun you can have is winning a bowl game. I mean, these kids and these players have been at this since August 1st. Now, keep in mind, they stayed there all summer to begin with. But to culminate it all by winning a bowl game is one of the greatest feelings there is. Now, on the other side, when you lose a bowl game, it really is an awful feeling.
Kind of stays with you for a while, doesn't it?
It really does. And we're staying at FAU's hotel tonight. I don't know if that's a good sign for us, because I think they're going to enjoy this one.
And us with an early flight. On to the next gig. Flags down in the play. You saw that Sean Clayton, quarterback now in for FAU from Poland, Ohio. A rarity on the roster because 98 of the 104 players.
False start. Number 67 on the offense.
98 of the 104 players on FAU's roster are from the state of Florida. Now, this is a state team. Pretty much owned and operated. You know, Schnellenberger, really a man of his word. He has a plan, he sticks to it, and when he says something, you better believe him. On the way back from Gainesville early this year, after they played against the University of Florida, they took a bathroom break on the turnpike on the bus coming back home. They stopped for a few minutes. He said, bus has wheels up, guys, in 15 minutes. 3 players, 3 unnamed players, Bob, you know where I'm going with this. 3 players never made it back to the bus.
Really?
They had to find their own way back on campus.
How about when they came back from Troy after the big win? For the first time in school history, they had a welcoming group on campus at about 12 o'clock at night, greeting them back on campus. I mean, everything is a first at FAU.
A lot of warm and fuzzies going around on campus. And there'll be some of those at the team hotel tonight.
Because this was an impressive win, Mark. I mean, they have come in here and really put a whipping on Memphis.
Yep. 2:36 to go. 2nd and 16 for the Owls. Clayton hands it off to number 8, B.J. Manley. And Rusty Smith, who's watching this one from the sidelines right now, every bit, Bob, deserving of his Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year award when you look at what he did today. You know, I'm told that he really has a great relationship with the burgeoning fan base he has on campus.
Well,
as he actually gets out there, plays a little flag football.
I'm going to put you out on the spot because you keep doing the Tim Tebow, Rusty Smith comparison. You're on the Rusty Smith bandwagon now. Go ahead and say it.
Breaking my ankles, jumping on.
Yeah, because you said, could Tim Tebow do the same thing in this FAU offense that Rusty Smith said he can do?
Could be an interesting point.
But he's had a great night, Mark. I mean, I am impressed with him. Only a sophomore, 6'5", about 215 pounds. Only going to get better.
5 touchdown passes on the night, Bob, to 5 different players.
And you know what? Howard Schnellenberger has been around some quarterbacks now. Yeah. They tell the story of Howard recruiting Joe Namath when Howard was at Alabama. Bear Bryant sent him up to Beaver Falls, PA. Notre Dame was actually coming in to get Joe to sign. Howard put Joe Namath on an airplane, actually wrote 2 bad checks because he didn't have any money to get the ticket to get him down to Bama. But he put him on an airplane, wrote 2 bad checks to get him out of there because Notre Dame was on the way in. Now,
there were fewer rules back then, right?
Kelly Atkinson's our director, told us that story. So if there's any validity issues, Kelly Atkinson gave me that story.
Referred to him
with the production
at ESPN.com.
But that's a great story, right?
Oh, gotta love it. 1:20 to go. And the FAU Owl fans still standing. They've been standing throughout the course of the game, especially in the second half.
Howard's thinking about what donors he's going to be knocking on that door.
Now, what about the Gatorade shower? I'm not sure that fit into the plan.
And I promise you that tie, the lapel's down. Look, wait a second. The lapel is rattled, Mark.
But the pocket square, Bob, is still there.
It still looks good. The hair, everything is immaculate. He may even break out the pipe tonight. I know it's been 3 years. He may break the pipe out tonight, Mark.
Well, sometimes as a football coach, you've got to break tendencies. Manley brought down to the 35-yard line. It will be a very glorious, celebratory atmosphere as they head back to Florida.
They're going to carry him off the field. That's what they're talking about. They had to ask him first. I'm telling you, they were asking him, coach, is it okay if we carry you off this field?
A man who has to be revered for the building jobs he's done respectively at Miami, Louisville, and now the latest chapter in Boca Raton, Florida, at Florida Atlantic University. Folks, don't get it mixed up with any other 3-letter school. It's FAU, because they've served notice in a short period of time. They belong. Clayton knocked down at the 47-yard line, and that's going to be it. Schnellenberger, a perfect 5-0 all-time in bowl games. As FAU registers its first ever bowl victory.
That's a great shot right there, Mark Jones. I mean, that's a lot of hard work.
12 seniors playing their final game for FAU. Seniors that joined this program 5 years ago when, frankly, there was nothing in the cupboard, literally and figuratively speaking. Join us on ESPN News for postgame on this show. 44-27 the final. Up next, it's Mad Nation. For Bob and Stacy and the rest of the gang, I'm Mark Jones saying good night from New Orleans, where the good times were rolling for FAU. So long, everybody.